We already got 10 likes. I don't think I have to. There's no reverberations.
Hey, what is going on, YouTube? It's the brain of the mainframe, Nile Scala, here again with another exciting episode of Crowdfunding Comics with my magnificent co-host, Mr. Billy Tucci. Billy, how are we doing tonight?
You know, we're doing pretty good, and I want to welcome everybody to tonight, the Crowdfunding Crusaders the world over. Welcome to Friday, the 13th episode of Crowdfunding Comics.
And it is a Friday the 13th, my friend.
Yeah, so we've got a huge resume to go through, so I'm going to go with it right now, right? Because we only got it 45 minutes to an hour, so let's go. Tonight, Nile, the Prince of Venice Scala, and I are joined by two troublemaking veterans who we've been lucky enough to showcase on Crowdfunding Comics before, Mr. Bo Smith and Mr. Graham Nolan. You guys are here with us to welcome our amazing guests, whom we're all huge fans of. A giant of a man in both heart and talent. He's been one of the most influential creators in comics for the past 35 years. From his days at Comico to First Comics to Eclipse to turning a one-dimensional psychopathic Marvel villain named the Punisher into their most popular character of the 1990s. But it was his incredibly influential run on DC's Batman that cemented his name into the upper echelons of comic book immortality. In the Dark Knight's aftermath, he went on to do Robin, The Joker's Wild, and Cry for Huntress. This led to both an ongoing series for which he wrote over 100 issues. No, he wrote 100 issues. He also wrote almost another 100 issues of Detective Comics, which featured the major immortal Batman stories Nightfall and Night's End, for which he co-created the key character Bane with Graham. He's also worked on Contagion, Legacy, Catalysm, and No Man's Land. He also co-created with Tom Lyle the Electrocutioner and Stephanie Brown. Much of his later run was illustrated by Graham. He was DC's most prolific Batman writer in the 1990s. In addition to writing Detective Comics, he pioneered the individual series for Robin, Nightwing, which he wrote 70 issues, and returned briefly with 2005 with number 101, and Batgirl, as well as working on Birds of Prey. Oh, man. His work also includes Punisher Batman crossover, sorry. Team 7 for Image. He wrote many issues of Catwoman and Green Arrow. He regularly had about 7 titles a month coming out in the 90s. He also wrote Batman Spawn, War of the Devil, and Secret Six. In 2002, he decided he wanted to move to Florida and help start up CrossGen Comics, slowly leaving Robin, Nightwing, Birds of Prey, and Batgirl to write Sigil, Crux, and launch Way of the Rat, Brath, The Silken Ghost, and the pirate adventure El Cazador. As well, yeah, he did. As well as editing Robert Roddy's non-sigil verse, The Crossovers. He also wrote Ruse, the Ruse spinoff, Archer's Angels. Man, after the cross-gen experiment failed due to bad management, our guest went on to do work with many other publishers, including Devil's Due, Moonstone. Man, I mean, the list just goes on, and I can keep talking. But
yeah, no kidding.
No, holy crap. I mean, but the bottom line is, welcome, everybody. Historian, a collector of such amazing things as Lead Soldier, and the keeper of Larry Hammer's most notorious secrets, Inkpot Award winner, and my dear friend, all of our dear friend, Mr. Chuck Dixon.
Hey!
Good night, everyone.
Hello, Graham. Hello, Chuck. Hello, Bo. Hello, Nile. Where's Nile?
You know, I'm exhausted from that intro. I need a drink.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, my gosh.
My
Chuck,
kids just got their license. No.
It's a real privilege to have you, Chuck, but we're here right now to talk about Airboy. And the Airboy returns after 30 years. The Indiegogo campaign that's going on right now. And I don't know, Nile, if you wouldn't mind posting a link to it or throwing it up out there, throwing the page. We could talk about Airboy a little bit. And if I may, Nile, can I give a little history of Airboy to those out there who may not be aware of it?
Please do, and we have the link in the description for the video, and we'll also have the link up in the comments.
Awesome. Well, here we go. Gee whiz, Chuck. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So Airboy was initially published by
You'll get to speak, Chuck.
No.
Yeah, we'll get it.
It's all yes or no questions for me.
Oh,
Just nod your head.
Airboy was published by Hillman Periodicals from 1942 and ran 89 issues through May 1953 when Hillman stopped publishing comics. I wonder if that had to do with the whole Wortham thing. Anyway,
that's what happened.
Oh, excellent. We'll get to that. Anyway, a true icon of the Golden Age, Airboy was created by Charles Brio and Dick Wood and Al Cammy and featured incredible adventure, World War II adventures, and beyond, including such weird antagonists as Intelligent Rats and the mysterious Misery, whose air tomb imprisoned the souls of dead pilots. That's freaking awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah, our hero, Davy Nelson, a.k.a. Airboy, was joined by such unforgettable characters as Skywolf, Iron Ace, the Black Angel, the Bald Eagle, the Flying Dutchman, the Flying Fool, and dare I say, perhaps comics' first swamp monster, the Heap?
Yep.
Heap.
Yeah. So anyway, but his most frequently reoccurring supporting character was, however, the stunningly hot, smoking hot Teutonic Aviation Valkyrie. Who originally fought on the side of the Nazis, but then defected to the Allies, all due to her love of Airboy. I don't know. Airboy returned in the 1970s for a few reprints, but was completely reborn in the 1980s when Eclipse Comics published a new Airboy series, updated to the modern era, starring Davy's son, David Nelson III. The 50-issue comic run reintroduced many of the supporting characters from the old stories, of course, as Valkyrie, and a Japanese fighter pilot named Hirota, and guest starred many of the characters who appeared as backups in the original comics. Chuck scripted it with occasional work by Tim Truman, and he worked with Ron Rangel and Stan Wuck and as the main illustrator. So, holy cow. Chuck, what was it about Airboy that drew you to it, and were you a fan of it before you started writing it? Did you get your hand on any of these reprints? Like, how did you come to Airboy?
Mm-hmm. Well, I read about it first in Steranko's History of the Comics. And, of course, Steranko made every Golden Age comic sound like, the kind of stuff I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And Airboy sold so well in its original run. It sold on a level with Superman and Batman that Golden Age copies were pretty cheap. I was able in the 70s to buy Airboy comics for as little as $2, $3 a piece, even though they were Golden Age. So I was really familiar with the character and enjoyed the character when the idea came up at Eclipse to bring him back. And I think I got the job because I knew more about the character than anybody else at the time.
Yeah.
Was that in public domain at the time, Chuck, or did they have to?
Yeah,
did they have to buy it?
Dean Mulaney had a guy who did nothing but visit the Library of Congress looking for stuff that we could print without paying anybody. That's how we ended up doing The Hobbit. This guy found an uncopyrighted manuscript of The Hobbit. So,
No kidding.
Yeah. But,
3 issues of that, right? You did 3 issues of The Hobbit?
Yeah, I did the graphic novel adaptation. It's still my best-selling work to date.
Wow. So what can you tell us about Airboy, your returns after 30 years?
Well, I mean, we originally planned to go beyond issue 50, but, things didn't work out. I mean, we were so serious about it that I wrote all of the Skywolf backups for 51 through 55, and one of them was even drawn and lettered. So I'm just returning to a storyline that was interrupted 30 years ago.
Wow. That's fantastic.
I'm going to do the same story that Cat Ironwood and I talked about way back when.
And you picked right. So you had those scripts. Now, were your scripts all were they all typed up on paper and you revisited them, or are they in a file somewhere?
Some of them may be. They're certainly not on my hard drive. I mean, I used to handwrite my scripts, and I had a typist who would type them for me.
Oh, so you didn't type? You wrote them by hand, like in a
yeah.
Wow.
I still don't type. I hunt and peck. But I hear that Stephen King does the same thing, and I hear he did all right. So
I think I heard of that guy.
Yeah. I've never learned to type.
Wow, you never did, huh? You didn't have typing in school, huh? So you do that.
Well, we had it in school, but I wasn't a girl. Come on.
He just said, ooh. Well, we had my son just said, ooh, so basically his dad, thank you for emasculating me. All right, tally ho. You can do it. No, he said he's kidding. Now he feels bad. It's all right, Matthew. It's fun. It's all fun.
What captured you to that character? What made you want to work on this book? What made you want to even, pick up where you left off?
Well, I've always liked the character. I kind of made my bones with the character. Airboy is the reason why I ended up writing Batman, because Denny O'Neil read my Airboy comics and thought I was a good fit for Robin. because I'd written a younger character convincingly, without trying to be trendy and cool, and so I wrote all the angst and everything without getting too over dramatic about it. So I kind of owe Airboy that, and man, it's still World War II themed, even though it's set in present day. And Valkyrie, I mean, a former Nazi chick turned anti-heroine. I mean, it's irresistible stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now tell us about It's Alive. Now I know that Drew Ford, he's really been like Sam Glanzman's champion.
Right.
And so how did this work out between did you say, hey, listen, I have these scripts, I have all these stories that I want to tell. The time is right to bring Airboy back. Did you approach Drew, or did Drew come to you? Because it's perfect.
Well, he came to me because Gary Kwapis and I did these Civil War graphic novels.
Yeah.
That we lost a fortune on. And Drew was working at Dover Books. And he basically bought them for Dover Books, who continue to publish them to this day. And so Drew and I already had a relationship. And I had supported all the Sam Glanzman stuff. I wrote forwards and things like that. I helped solicit them. And he approached me and said, you want to return to Airboy, meaning the 80s Eclipse Airboy.
Yeah.
And it was good because somehow IDW and Todd McFarlane worked out a thing where I own the rights to all that stuff now. So.
You do?
Oh, wow. So Airboy is now owned by Chuck Dixon?
Yeah, the 80s iteration of Airboy. I'm your boss now, Grant.
Wait, you own all that Skywolf art I have?
Well, I don't own the art, but I own the rights to it.
Oh, I guess I got to cancel that printing.
Yeah, because originally Todd McFarlane bought it in the Eclipse sale, and then he granted IDW the rights to reprint it, and then I don't know how that all worked, but I ended up with all that stuff under my name. So
cool.
Oh, cool.
Well, you got
Chuck, the first project Chuck and I ever worked on together was Skywolf.
Yeah.
Really? Now, Graham, how did that come about? How did this young lad from New Jersey or from upstate New York, you from New Jersey, right?
No, I'm from Long Island, but I was living in New Jersey.
So you're from Long Island?
Billy.
Do you fish?
Just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
What's in that wine?
Yeah, I want to get me some of that.
No, that was the whole point, was to get oh, you're from Long Island? Do you fish? And yeah, I fish, and that's the whole thing.
You ball busting bastard.
So how did this kid from Long Beach, Long Island, end up working to work with Chuck doing for the Airboy books?
I was working with Truman on the Prowler for Eclipse Comics, and I had done some. What was their? They had some horror comics too, like anthologies.
Tales
things.
of Terror and
Tales of Terror. Yeah. I'd done some stories for that too. So I was making my way through with Dean and Kat, and then they offered me a job illustrating a backup feature called Skywolf. And what did we do? Four issues, Chuck?
I think so, 4 or 5. I remember them well. I mean, you had that, you loved the pulp stuff and all that stuff from that era as much as I did. So it was a perfect fit to have you come on that.
I love that one with the wrestler. He was like a Gorgeous George type of guy, and the cereal sugar pops with the machine guns on it.
Yeah.
that was fun.
Yeah,
that was fun stuff. Yeah, so that was the first time Chuck and I met. Was working on that.
Yeah.
Hey, and now you've returned to help to work with Chuck again by supplying a variant cover that's available as one of the links. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, speaking of art, this art looks amazing, Chuck, by Brent and Jock. I mean, it's almost got a Moebius, a real. It seems like an influence by then, but it's gorgeous.
It's a little bit funky, which is good because Airboy was always a little bit funky. It keeps that Eclipse vibe because it was a strange book. It was an odd book. Airboy's always been an odd book, and we kind of kept that, gooniness to the title. As violent as it got, it was still a little on the goofy side, which was good.
Yeah. Now,
I love that main cover where Airboy is like climbing out on the wing of the plane, and the other plane is like sailing away towards the left corner of the cover. But the thing I love the most about that really sells it for me, and this is strictly an artist's eye, is that Airboy's left leg is still in the cockpit.
Yeah.
His foot is and his foot is in the cockpit. So you could tell that he just wasn't planted there. He's still working his way out. That's a nuance that I think the artist really captured great.
Yeah, and the colors are great too, and it looks like it's a BF 109 that's smoking going down. So Chuck, so it's the original aircraft, right? So how can you give us a little insight on that? Like
there it is
with number 51. How did now bring us in up to date if you don't mind, up to speed.
I mean, story wise, yeah. Well, issue 50, Misery is like Airboy's Dr. Doom or Joker. He's his main arch nemesis, and Misery fits in with the whole Airboy weirdness thing. He flies an airplane that's a flying graveyard. And in the graveyard are all these famous aviators who've died. Glenn Miller, and well, not aviators, but people who famously died in plane accidents. I mean, Buddy Holly. They're all there in Misery's flying graveyard. And in issue 50, which was done by both Kuberts, Andy and Adam, he ends up in Misery's like alternate universe, where he's looking for his father, his long lost father. And all kinds of horror elements. He runs into the heap, the whole bit. But the ultimate thing is at the end of the issue, he's spit back out of Misery's world, and to land somewhere on Earth. And in issue 51, this new issue, 30 years later, we find out he's spit out into the South African veldt. And remember, this is 1989. It's still apartheid. So it's Airboy once again in the middle of a fight.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I love the time capture that we still, I know that you picked up and everything, but man, 1989, think of the possibilities. It's before the Gulf War.
Right.
We have the dawn of the new age of this new hippie stuff coming in with the 90s and Reagan, he's retired to the ranch with Nancy.
There you go.
But just how the world had changed. I mean, you look at the decade from 1979 to now where you are in 1989.
Right.
But you still have your usual suspects and the villains, even though, the Soviet Union's about to crumble. But I love the whole thing with the apartheid and South Africa. I mean, wow, just pretty cool. So now, so what's the plans right now? How long is the issue? The new trade paperback. I see it's number 51, right? Are we hitting with right to number 51? Will we have? Is 51? How many pages is it? Are we going to do 52? The next one, 53, 54, like that?
Well, that depends on our stretch goals. That depends on how much money you can raise for me tonight, Billy.
Well, let's raise some money, guys. Come on.
Hey, we've got people in the stream saying, I just backed it.
Nice.
Hey.
Open those wallets, boys.
If we meet our stretch goals, the issue gets bigger and bigger. If we get to our ultimate stretch goal of 20,000, the book it gets split into two books. So you'll get two issues, 51, 52, with backups of either the Heap, Skywolf, or Valkyrie.
Yeah.
So we're adding content. Our stretch goals are all about adding content. So if you've already donated, convince your friends to donate so your comic book will get bigger.
Yeah, please share it, guys, because what's really cool, what's different about this than a lot of other Kickstarters, is that you've reached your goal, and now you want your stretch goals, and your stretch goal is actually all that money is going back into the project. So you're actually giving people more. You know what I mean? Like some people, like a lot of times stretch goals, you have a sticker, you have a bookmark, things like that. You're actually adding more pages. Every stretch goal you hit is more pages. So guys, I mean, if we get to his second stretch goal, if we can get to $15,000, which we are now, what is that, $1,200 away from. The comic is now going from 32 to 48 pages. Holy cow! So you're adding a lot more content, a lot more Airboy sketches, an essay or two. But guys, please, he's also giving away one original page of art from Brent. Holy crap! Wow, that's really generous.
Yeah. And we're not taking the extra money and spending it on firecrackers and candy.
Yeah.
We're spending it on more content.
Well, not this time.
Well, Bo and I are huge Airboy fans, and of course, Bo's part of the old Eclipse crew and everything. And Bo, I know we were talking, and please, I know you've got a lot of things that you want to throw in there or talk about, Chuck. As you said, you'd help me along with this, and pontificating going on. So, hello, Bo. Good to see you.
Looking good, Bo.
He's not. Silent Bo tonight.
No, I haven't. Billy was just talking. He didn't ask me anything. Ask me, Billy.
I was trying to get the start going, but Bo, tell us, how you're an Airboy fan.
He's from New York, Bo. You just got to jump in.
Yeah.
Say, shut up.
Oh, well, as far as Airboy goes, I was VP of marketing for Eclipse Comics, as well as writing on the side when I could. But I was an Airboy fan before I went to work at Eclipse. And unlike Chuck, I didn't find any, for $2 or $3. Here in West Virginia, it was a little tougher to find back issues. But the thing that drew, because Chuck was working on it, Tim Truman was working on it, and Graham, Tom Lyle, all these guys had a piece or, the backup or the regular series. And I was always drawn to it. It was a lot of the things that I was familiar with, but yet a lot of the things, like Chuck was talking about earlier, it's a quirky book. It has the World War II stuff. It had the 50s kind of feel, but yet at the same time, it was horror, and it was, kind of a weird book at points, which was a great thing. You had the rats, the rats were huge. And, I was always wondering back then, when's Chuck, going to bring those in, and did. But Airboy was an easy sale for Eclipse Comics at the time, because the 80s was an amazing breakthrough time for independent comics.
Yeah.
And what Chuck and everybody else that worked on Airboy at the time brought to that was just what we said. It had a superhero feel, it had a horror feel, it had a quirky feel, it had a romance feel. There was actually something for everybody, and retailers back then had no problem. It was a fairly low-risk book for them, because they could order that knowing that they could steer if someone came up with a Marvel or DC superhero book. Oh, you might like this Airboy. If they came up with a horror book, you might like this Airboy. Even if they, leaning towards a romance book, same thing. And the really good retailers of the time used that and sold quite a bit. We had ups and downs with it sales-wise. It was never about content. It was mainly because of the trends that were going on in comic books with distributorship. When I got in at Eclipse in '87, we had 27 different distributors, and each one of those distributors had a minimum of 5 warehouses, and some of them, up into double digits. So that's what actually changed with the book. And I was real happy that we, got to 50, and 50, like I said, with the Kuberts, that's you had Joe, Andy, and Adam all in one issue.
And that was all Bo. Bo talked them into that. All kudos to Bo for making that special 50th issue happen.
Wow.
It was just one of those that they promised they would do that, and also say that Graham never went to the Kubert school. So that was part of the deal.
Well, I fooled them. I didn't graduate.
He didn't pay him either.
No, unfortunately, I did.
I want to add this one thing before I send it back to Billy. Is I've known Chuck since Chuck, '86?
Yeah.
And I mentioned this today when I was talking to a couple of people. I talked to Chuck earlier today. In those years, Chuck is probably the most linear personality as far as friends that I have go. No matter what's going on in his life, personal or business, Chuck is here all the time. And that's a real solid personality. And that shows in his work, and it always has. It doesn't matter what genre, what range you ask him to go into. There's no, I think I can do it. No, I can't do that. He can do it. It's either comes easy to him or it's a challenge to him, but the line goes here. He will always be able to do it. And I think that is probably what has helped the longevity of his career. And right now at this point, his best work's still ahead of him. I mean, everything Chuck does is better than what he did before. And if you're thinking about backing this book, then on my end, it's a no-brainer, because you're going to get the best work Chuck Dixon's done yet. Mm-hmm. And you can't beat that. And if you're on that book, you get carried away with this tsunami. So it's a very good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny that Chuck, you are so prolific, because you're not just a comic writer. You're also now you co-own a comic book company in Cautionary Comics, and we had Ben on the other day. We had Ben on Monday, and Mike Barron, and talking about Ravage, Kill All Men. And what a pisser. Oh my gosh. So can you give us a little insight on that? I know we're talking mostly because we want Airboy. We right now it looks like we're $109 away from $14,000 for Airboy. So we can please get you guys out there to share it. I know a lot of you have already contributed to it, but if you guys can share Airboy, let's get it going, and let's see if we can get it. If we can't get it, let's at least share it. So by tomorrow morning, or we're near the end of the campaign, let's make that book. You guys have paid for that book already. Make it 48 pages. There you go. But I mean, the Ravage, I love the idea of Ravage and how it is like two Army veterans crash a mystical jungle populated by a lost tribe of toxic women that hunt men.
Well, first of all, I want to say after Poe's tribute, I feel like the Duke at the end of She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. But I feel like I should be looking at a watch. But Ben is a force of nature. He can you had him on, that. He's almost as energetic as you are, Billy. And he just came at me with all these ideas he had, and he just sort of babbling away all these ideas. And when he told me Ravage, I said, that's it. That's the one I want. He goes, well, let me tell you more about it. I said, no, you told me enough. I'm just going to go off on what you told me already. This idea is nuts, and I just want to go crazy with it. It's like, it's such a 1970s exploitation movie kind of thing.
That's what I said. Like, well, I pictured William Smith as one of those guys.
Yeah. Exactly. But he's got all these hooks, and he's got all these twists and turns in the story. So it has a lot more resonance than like a Cannon movie would have.
Yeah.
And also, I told him, I said, what's buried in this story is a great buddy comedy. And he let me run with it. So
it's just I think it's brilliant. I think it's fun. Like I said, the first thing that popped in my mind is, these are two Vietnam vets,
Yeah.
And I just love the idea. And again, it's just so politically incorrect and just
it's way politically incorrect.
It's way now Chuck, I know we talked about your artists and all, and I've asked Bo this question, but when you write, now that you write with your artists, I know you write longhand and you peck and type, but when you deliver your scripts to your artists, do you deliver a full script?
Yes.
You do?
Full script. Yeah, every time. All the dialogue, everything. But it's, Graham can tell you, or he better tell you, that I'm flexible. The artist.
He's as flexible as iron.
Watch out. I'm going to make you draw more helicopters, Graham. But it's, there's flexibility in there. I mean, I like the collaborative effort. If somebody's got a better idea how to do the page, for my money, the artist spends more time on each page than I do, so they should have some say. And if they want to make me look like a genius, then please, I want them to do that.
Is that why you hired Graham the Man Nolan on so many of your projects?
Graham is awesome. We just like working together. We're on the same page. We like the same stuff. And on Batman, he was invaluable because the guy's a Batman scholar. I mean, I learned so much about Batman that I thought I knew everything. I didn't know everything. And we did a lot of collaborating on that, a lot of actually meeting in person to plot the stuff out, which I've really never done with any other artist.
Well, again, what's so funny is that, like we're all fans, and we all became friends, literally through our love of comics. And, most comic fans, or all comic fans, comics means something different to each and every one of us. And it's usually something very near and dear to our hearts. So that said, what are comics to you, Chuck? Like, how did the origin of Chuck Dixon, comic book writer, begin? Like, how did you get into comics? How did this journey that you're now gracing us with your presence tonight?
Well, so many comic book people's origins are the same. And mine is I guess, the one variation of the origin. I was sick a lot as a kid. I was hospitalized a lot. And comics were an outlet. And comics were something, they were cheap, and people could bring them to you in your hospital room or bring them to you at home when you were in bed. And, we only had 3 channels, TV, there wasn't a whole lot of entertainment, so I literally, my dad would come home Friday nights from work. He would visit the farmer's market, and he'd bring home literally bundles of comics tied with twine that were coverless that they sold at the farmer's market. And I would just devour them. And I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't want to work in comics in some capacity. So, that's my origin.
Pretty great. Bo, what about you? I missed that question with you. How did you get into comics?
I remember being about 4 or 5 years old. I couldn't read yet, but it was just one of those magical moments. I mean, I saw a comic book and I was just so drawn to the pictures. Didn't know what the words said, but through good storytelling at the time, I could tell what was going on in the stories. And I used to draw, and up until about 9th grade. And by then, I knew it wasn't going to get any further. That was as good as it was going to get. So I said, I'm just going to focus on the writing. And I've been writing stories since elementary. I think I told you when we did the one on Wynonna Earp, I used to write stories about Wyatt Earp and his brothers fighting the Universal monsters as a kid. And that's Wynonna Earp.
I want to read those.
Yeah.
You can pitch that now.
It's nice, buddy, that one.
It was a magical.
I want to draw that comic.
Hey, for $125 page, pencils out the colors, you can.
Wow, the rates haven't changed from Eclipse.
They sure haven't in some aspect. But I was just drawn to the stuff as a kid, and I think I've mentioned this before. Comics is the common bond that's pulled a lot of us from a lot of different paths in life together. That sometimes is the only thing we all have in common, and we can be totally different in a lot of different ways. And that's one of the neatest things for me in 33 years of comic book creating, is to get to meet a lot of people I never would have met or been friends with if it wasn't for comics.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Indeed.
So let me ask you this then, for Chuck. Now you've done a few crowdfunding campaigns in the past. You have this one going on that's going to be ending shortly. What made you go into the whole crowdfunding arena? What made you finally roll your sleeves up and say, "Hey, I'm actually going to do this thing called Kickstarter and Indiegogo"?
Well, I got invited by people to do it because Graham will tell you, when we did it on our own, we fell flat on our faces because we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Yeah.
But
neophytes.
Yeah, really, we were just babes in the woods, and the poor Graham ended up doing a comic book for next to nothing. But the the people that have a talent for this, like Drew, and like Ben, and like Vox Day, they come to me and say, "Look, we can meet your page rate. We can do this thing that generally I end up owning." And, all the hard work is done for me because, you guys know crowdfunding is labor intense. It's tough. Yeah. So, as long as all I had to do was write the thing and then help them promote it, when it was done, cool deal for me, and a lot of my income has been crowdfunding the last couple of years. So, there's no gatekeepers, it's total freedom.
Let me ask you and Graham something real quick. You all brought it up. You said your first one you kind of fell flat on. What did you guys learn from that's helped you now?
Let someone else do it. Graham's had a very successful one recently with Monster Island. But boy, when we did Joe Frankenstein,
Yeah, we didn't have the we weren't connecting with the right places at we were thinking very, very two-dimensionally, I think.
Yeah.
With how we were promoting for that thing. And I think some of the perk levels were, could have been rethought to make things more interesting. So, yeah, I mean, it was a learning process.
And we also found out that social media is a lie. I have 5,000 friends. I'm reaching 12.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or if I work all week like a dog, I might reach 100.
Mm-hmm.
So that's we bought into that, and then we had some tchotchkes that were quite frankly a pain in the ass to mail. We learned from that.
Yeah.
So a lot of valuable lessons were learned from that first one. Then
never do it again would be the first lesson.
When I started promoting Return to Monster Island, I think I'd been pitching for like 2 weeks on it, and then Chuck sends me a message that he just saw it. I had been already pushing it for 2 weeks every single day on my Facebook page, and Chuck and I are like favorite friends, and we post on each other's things. So through the algorithm, you'd think that anything that he posts or I post, we'd see it immediately because that's just how that stuff works. He hadn't seen it for 2 weeks.
And I was so pissed when I saw it because I'm like, my God, we're on Facebook, private messaging or posting on each other's pages almost every day. And I don't see this goddamn post that he puts up for 2 weeks. I was pissed.
Yeah.
So,
There's been an issue with that. It's been an issue with that in Facebook. I mean, really, unfortunately, Facebook's becoming the dinosaur of it, and they want to control so many different things that they want you to pay for the advertising. They want you to have that stuff as sponsored, so they control what people are seeing. Because, you send out likes and stuff. I mean, me and Billy, our own stuff, I mean, we have combined, 7,000 people, and, we're lucky if we get 300 to actually see something. And, you really got to focus on Twitter, and like the more confusing ones you got to focus more on because that's where they don't control any of it.
Like Instagram, it's great for posting images, but you can't put a hyperlink on it. So if you put one into the post on Instagram, you can't just click on it. Somebody's got to actually look at it, type it out. And it's this big old thing.
Who owns Instagram?
What, Bo?
Who owns Instagram?
I don't know.
Facebook.
Oh, do they?
Facebook owns Instagram.
That's the problem. It's all Google and Facebook. They own everything. So.
Well, the power of capitalism. Here.
So, Chuck, I had a question here in chat from Albino Thunderbuns.
Yes.
I know them well.
What would Chuck say is the lowest suitable age for reading Airboy? I've had a great time showing the Monster Island Artist Edition to my kids. Thank you, Graham. It's magic.
Woo!
Oh, wonderful.
I'm going to say 12. I mean, it's all ages friendly in my mind, but there's going to be some violence. So, because I'm writing it.
But is there really violence, Chuck, or is it action?
No.
There was that whole thing that Alex Toth talked about.
Yeah.
That there's a difference between violence and action.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't finished writing it. So, but Airboy was a pretty violent comic in its day.
Yeah.
And the thing is, somebody was saying that to me today. Wow, it was really violent for a mainstream comic, which is what it was, a superhero kind of comic. And I said, well, it was the age of the Chuck Norris movie and Rambo movies and things like that. There was a certain audience expectation for that level of, carnage.
Mm-hmm.
But even the silver golden age, I mean, what I love about how violent the golden age comics were. I mean, just take a look. Have you guys seen the Captain Marvel serial highlights?
Oh yeah.
Love it.
He gets that water-cooled machine gun and shoots those guys.
Down, I don't know, they're Arabs, you know what I mean, or working for the Razzies, the Turks, or something like that. And he's just oh my gosh.
Yeah. Roll people out of windows. I mean, and so casually.
yeah, and you could tell some of those stuntmen really got hurt because he's just throwing him into walls and stuff like that, and.
Well, they got hurt because they didn't have enough money to rehearse. I remember seeing Buster Crabbe one time when he was promoting, when they were running Flash Gordon on TV again. He was on a talk show, and they showed this clip where he just picks this guy up and throws him into a fiery pit. And they said, well, did that guy know that was going to happen? And he said, no.
Yeah, Flash Gordon for those out there is on AMC every Saturday morning. I think it's on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings. I think it makes sense to be Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday mornings at probably 9:30 a.m.
Yep.
And they're timeless. They're really great.
Oh, that's great stuff.
Yeah,
Well, I can imagine some of those stunt guys getting hurt with Tom Tyler, because at one point he was the strongest man in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a big guy too.
He was big, and he was known for how powerful he was. And unfortunately, he ended up with rheumatoid arthritis, and it just destroyed his career.
You never heard of the story of him and Elmo Lincoln in a bar, did you?
No.
No, first Tarzan.
I just love that idea of him and Elmo Lincoln in a bar. Elmo Lincoln was the first Tarzan, right? He was in the silent film. He was giant. He was a big giant dude.
Yeah.
So
we're $79 away from hitting 14,000 on Airboy.
All right. Well, thank you.
So guys, if we can please share this. We're up there. Someone bought the Graham Nolan variant cover. Chuck, tell us a little bit, if we may. Where did it go? Did I take it away? No, get rid of that one. Hang on. What are your other successful Indiegogo campaigns? I got so many windows open right now.
May I ask a question, Billy?
Oh yes, please. By George, man, you are the brain, of course.
So Chuck, now with Cautionary Comics, if you don't mind me asking, how did you come to be a part of that team? I know obviously Ben, I think was he the original figurehead of it or what have you? I mean, did he approach you?
Founded it.
Yeah, he approached me. I'm not sure. I think I saw the stuff. He became a Facebook friend, and I saw some of the stuff and told him, hey, it looks great. And then he contacted me. And then once you're in Ben's circle, it's kind of like you've taken a Viking oath. You're part of the crew now. And he, but like I said, as soon as he described Ravage to me, I wanted to be on board. Mm-hmm. And then he wanted my imprimatur, and then I suggested bringing Mike Barron into the fold, because it seemed like Mike's kind of stuff too. And now Mike's working on this Florida Man, which is going to be his masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's weird because the company sort of grew its own persona, its own style of sort of like a grindhouse comic book company. Because Ben and I are talking now about a graphic novel that I'm going to do through Cautionary. Actually, not do, it's already finished, called Seven Deadly Sinners. It's the Magnificent Seven reimagined as a biker gang movie from the 70s.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Bob C. Hardin, the classic cartoonist from the old Cartoons and Dragtoons magazines, he drew it. It's a 110-page graphic novel.
Wow, that is awesome.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. His stuff is great.
Another awesome. William Smith vehicle. Now,
yes, exactly.
I mean, remember we had that conversation, guys. I think Chuck and I had it, or Bo. Remember they said they asked someone who the toughest guy in Hollywood. Maybe they asked Clint Eastwood who the toughest guy in Hollywood was, and people said, "Are you the toughest guy in Hollywood?" And for those of you who don't know William Smith or Bill Smith, I think he's known as William Smith, right?
Yeah.
He was in Take the Money and Run or something like that. He was not Take the Money and Run. He was in some of
Conan's father.
Yeah, Conan's father.
Yeah.
And he's just a major league badass. I just think he would have been him or Jack Palance would have been such a great Dark Knight Returns, when it came out. If they had made a film like that. I remember seeing Batman, with the 1989 Batman. And it's kind of sad to me. And Chuck, I'm very interested in asking you this, and I agree with this, that Michael Keaton to me is the best Batman. Of the mainstream films. But I just remember watching, Jack Palance there as the gangster guy. And I just kept wishing, how amazing would this have been if they had made The Dark Knight Returns and he had played Bruce Wayne?
Yeah. I mean, to me, the key to playing Batman is playing Bruce Wayne. And Keaton was a great Bruce Wayne. He had that perfect sort of detachment where he didn't seem snobbish or effete. He just seemed like, this is so unimportant to me. This is such a masquerade. And it all with his eyes. It's a tremendous performance. I mean, I don't really like the movie, but his performance is terrific, And then when he's Batman, he's basically a guy in a suit where he can barely move.
Yeah, moves like that.
If I dare say, I mean, I think Chuck and boys, if you guys can jump in here too. today, who I think that Michael Keaton was the best Batman. Just
agree.
other films. But who today, is there anyone that you can see playing Bruce Wayne today?
Man, I'm stumped. Yeah.
I'm not too up on a lot of current guys, so yeah, I'm not a good person to ask.
I kind of was thinking John Hamm, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
really,
10 years ago.
10 years ago, but I mean, who's out there? I mean,
well, I think if and when and whatever they do, they're going to go with a younger, unknown guy just because they can make it, their own tent pole, so to speak. So you're probably not going to see, like we have in the past, an established person. You're going to see somebody new that they can cultivate and actually have on for franchise-wise, if it works out, for a continued time, because they're finding it harder to have established actors sign up for basically, 5 films.
Yeah.
So, and to be honest with you, I'm all for that because it gives somebody else new a chance, and you got to start with somebody new all the time. I mean,
and too often
they want that longevity.
They pick a guy who's like in his late 30s, and by the time he's made the 5th film, he's 50. I mean, they got to start with a younger guy. And trust me, whoever plays Batman, it's going to make them a star, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and even if they only ever play Batman, they retire a multi-millionaire. So, it's not that hard to figure out. But then again, we're talking about Hollywood. They're a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, exactly. Well, gentlemen, if I may ask, in the history of cinema, for I guess Chuck, would we say Bruce Wayne, to be safe, is 32 or 28? What age would you say your classic Bruce Wayne? How old is Bruce?
I thought 35. I thought
35.
That's what I thought too.
Okay.
35.
All right, that's even better. So 35 years old, from one of the greatest Batman writers of all time to also one of the greatest Batman artists of all time to 2 of the greatest Batman fans of all time, Bo and I. Who do you 3 believe, and Nile the Brain, if you may come into, if you could choose any actor at any point in their career to play Bruce Wayne, say there's the ultimate budget from the rumored, remember when I think it was Mark Millar put out the rumor that Orson Welles is going to do a Batman film in 1946 or something like that, to today, who would you guys pick to be, who is your perfect Bruce Wayne, perfect movie Batman?
Wow.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I can think of a cool golden age actor I would have liked to have seen as Bruce Wayne, and that's Clark Gable.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been interesting. That would have been
good Bruce Wayne. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm asking this because I've always had an idea who my ultimate Batman would be, and I would love Errol Flynn to have played Batman.
Yeah, Errol Flynn was good. That was my next choice.
I love that idea. I mean, you saw him in Gentleman Jim, and how physical he was. Mm-hmm. And you think 35, now he's starting to go down 35 just because of his life. But I would love a 35-year-old Errol Flynn to be Bruce Wayne. I think he could totally pick that up. That Irishman from Tasmania. But Bo, what about you?
I'm talking taboo here. I mean, as a kid, Batman was always okay. Really, I was never a huge Batman fan like a lot of other people were. So to be real honest with you, I didn't think about him too much as a character, just like Superman. I never thought about Superman too much as a character.
You're dead to me.
No. I don't. I was always the second, third, and fourth tier character person. I mean, I was the guy that was B'wana Beast.
I was going to say
B'wana Beast.
No, I'm dead serious.
I know you are.
It was the same way. Skull the Slayer, Red Wolf. Those were the ones that I always was drawn to and cared about. And I wrote Batman Wildcat with Chuck. So, I mean, I got to step into that, which was really kind of should have been Chuck Dixon versus Bo Smith, because that's kind of in a way with our writing with it that we kind of took that. But I there were a lot of actors I thought that looked like what I thought Bruce Wayne should look like, and one of them was a character actor. In fact, I think he was in Die Hard. Last name Bachner. Do you guys?
Bachner?
Yeah. I thought he had the look of. I always saw him at that age, and someone said this guy would be a great Bruce Wayne. He would probably do good as Batman, but he was a character actor and never. But I thought he had that look, and to be honest with you, it was a Jim O'Pera look in my head because that was my favorite Batman artist, excluding Grant.
Yeah. Now, what about say Clint Walker? Would he be more
Hawkman?
Hawkman.
Yeah, Clint Walker is that guy is huge.
He's gigantic.
He could never play Bruce Wayne. Nobody would believe.
No. Superman,
yeah.
Walker,
Hawkman.
Now, someone here, Clint Walker, Pop Tart gun, said Clint Walker, which is now. What do you guys think? And this is the mob scene had a very interesting thing. Now, you asked me this 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would say no way. But now I agree with. I kind of intrigued by this choice. What about Keanu Reeves after the John Wick?
Oh, he could do it.
Quirkiness, you could see Keanu Reeves being, isolated child, what I mean, growing up in his own little world.
I think he would play a better Batman than a Bruce Wayne.
No, I think, yeah.
I think he could pull off Bruce Wayne. I think he could pull off Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Would that get the Dixon stamp of approval?
Yeah, I got nothing against that. And, everything I hear about, I've never heard a bad word about Keanu Reeves. I mean, he's one of those rare celebrities. I saw a picture the other day of him posing with two chicks, and he looks like he's embracing them, but he's not.
I saw that.
His hands are like an inch off of their flesh. And it's like, man, this guy's far.
Yeah.
It's like, no Me Too movements for me, baby.
Yep.
I am clean.
What's amazing is that Albino Thunderbuns said that Keanu Reeves is 54 years old.
Yeah.
Hard to believe.
Yeah, just one of those guys that looks young all the time.
Yeah, but imagine signing him with Bat Duck, who played the Dark Knight, with the Bat Duck thing. Imagine signing him to play the Dark Knight. What is it, 12, 13 years ago?
Yeah.
To play him.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I think he would have been. You convinced me. I never thought of him until this day.
I would have bought that. Yeah.
I get to backtrack here a little bit. When we were talking about Michael Keaton a while ago, when Michael Keaton was cast as Batman, I was in the Wall Street Journal. USA Today came to my house to interview me on that because I raised so much cane in what was then comic book media about how terrible he would be, how awful he would be. And every once in a while, I'll be doing interviews or whatever, and that comes back to, again, bite me on the ass. But I was saying, he totally turned me around because I agree with what Chuck and everybody else said. To me, he was the best Batman, and he was the best Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
I didn't like the movie, similar to Chuck. I'm not a big Tim Burton movie, just the way he does it. He's a talented guy. It's just my narrow taste. It's not. I was also the guy that said at Eclipse, they were going to do The Hobbit. And I'm going, nobody's going to buy that book. And I was the VP of marketing. So
I got to check this week. Thank God for The Hobbit.
If this was 1963, I'd be going, the Beatles? Nah.
Hey, I was the same with the Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles, what the hell's that?
Oh, really?
Gold.
But I when I was at DC, I met Mark Hamill. He was like a frequent visitor. And his wife would tell a story about how he wanted to play Batman when they were talking about casting. Why can't I play Batman? And everybody said, you're too short. Yeah. So they were at a party, and Michael Keaton was there, and he had been cast. And she says, she looks over, she can't find her husband, and she looks over, and he's standing back to back with Michael Keaton looking at her with his hand up. Look, we're the same height. We're the same height.
Oh, God.
Right, let's have a little fun here. Because now we're going off on a completely different tangent, but it's Billy's
Kevin
ADD.
Conroy's my Batman.
It's 1968, and we have cast Clint Walker as Clark Kent, right? It's a Justice League film, or it's Batman versus Superman film. Who is our Batman circa 1968? Who's our Bruce Wayne?
Adam West.
Adam West.
Why not? Why not?
But give him a serious role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no 1966 television series.
Right.
So we want Sam Peckinpah to direct this film. All right, let's go.
I'm in.
All right, who's our Catwoman? Anne Margaret? Is she sultry enough? Who's our? I think she could be that little kitten that she
Lee
was.
Remick.
Lee Remick, yeah. Yeah.
You would pick Lee Remick over Anne Margaret circa 1968 to play Catwoman.
I'd pick Lee Remick over just about anybody.
Really?
I love Lee Remick. I think she's gorgeous.
Oh, back then I would have picked Suzanne Plachette as Catwoman back then.
Tall, she's big. She's tall. Yeah, maybe.
Well, how tall she was.
He's not tall.
Jeez. I don't know. I mean,
I was in the bank with Suzanne. I was at a bank in the city with Suzanne Plachette, and she's really tall.
Really?
that's
like
surprising.
heel tall.
Huh.
Yeah,
Wow.
she's super tall. She's
Wow.
probably 5'9", and she had heels on.
Really?
And me being 5, well, what am I? 5'9", 5'10"?
Ah,
You're 5-0.
5'0", just full of hate.
Hey, Billy, you're just the perfect height that when we have our shin kicking contest, it's poetry.
Well, that's how I won, Bo. Bo always, when Bo kicks my shin, he goes right below my knee, and my bone is bigger there. What Bo doesn't realize, when I won, and Graham, you were there, is that I was right above his ankle. Just like when hockey players get hurt, I hit him right above his ankle. That's how I won.
And that's a test to your power because I've got some powerful oaks. You all have seen me in shorts.
hey, Billy.
We're talking about tree trunks.
Suzanne Plachette's 5'4".
Okay. I do.
Maybe it wasn't.
She's so tall.
Hang on.
She's a giant among women.
Consider the
All
swords.
right, hang on. Maybe it wasn't. Hang on. I want to talk about Jungle Comics #1. Let me see. Maybe it wasn't Suzanne Plachette. Let me Google her. Suzanne.
Oh, no, it was Tim Curry. Yeah, all right.
Oh, wait, that was Ben Johnson.
Oh, it wasn't her. I'm sorry, it was not her. It was another woman that looked like her. I apologize.
Okay.
Nope, it was not her.
All right.
Let me ask everybody that's there for a second, since we're kind of talking about that stuff, casting.
Get my-
Are there certain superheroes, that you had said always, in your head, no matter what time period or whatever, this is the person that would play this hero or this bad guy? Was there anyone that you just, I know there's a couple for me, but is there any of them that just,
If
I'm not alone
Liam
in
Neeson
saying,
is the Phantom.
whoa.
yeah,
whoa.
Chuck's our guest. Chuck, if you
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, anyway, I'm not alone in saying, James Garner as the Spirit. He was just made to play the Spirit. So,
Okay.
unfortunately, that's never going to happen. Maybe CGI.
Liam
Grandma?
Neeson is the Phantom.
Who?
Liam Neeson is the Phantom.
Huh.
I like Billy Zane as a Phantom. I thought he was great, Phantom.
Yeah.
He's fine, but look at Liam Neeson on a side view. He's Cy Barry's drawing come to life.
No, he would
Wow.
be.
Well, I'm going to be Mr. Obvious here, if I may. Going back to, let's say, 1984, 83, 84, Streets of Fire. Okay? You know where we're going with this one.
No.
Who would be, in my opinion, the greatest Joker of all time?
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, no, he was one that I've always thought of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember when they picked Jack Nicholson
Uh,
for the film, and I'm like, oh my God, you have this actor. How could you not? And that's when I thought it might be silly.
that was just picked because he was a Hollywood favorite at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was the big draw in that film. The
Exactly.
same way, they're still going by the Superman the movie template and casting the villain and as the big draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you know who I've always thought would have been the perfect Wolverine in his prime? Robert Conrad.
Robert Conrad, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, the
really,
height was right. He loves taking his shirt off. Yeah.
But what about Fred? What's his name? From Buckaroo Banzai. He was in Fred Willard, not Fred.
Fred Ward.
Fred Ward?
Fred Ward.
Who?
Yeah.
Fred
Fred
Ward?
Ward.
Fred Ward, yeah. Right?
Fred Ward.
The guy who he was in
Tremors.
The Right Stuff. He played Gus Grissom, Right
My
Stuff.
name is Billy. I can.
Thank you. My son just brought me a glass of wine. Tally-ho. I think that Charlie Bronson would have made an amazing Wolverine.
I gotta disagree with you there. I don't think he had the.
He's too laconic. You know, he's never manic enough.
Right. Exactly.
And he wouldn't have taken that role seriously at all.
Oh my God!
All right, well, Chuck, let's get down to it. Is Death Wish 3 your favorite of the Death Wish films?
I don't really like the Death Wish series. I mean, surprisingly. Yeah. I love the novel that they were based on so much, and they just never touched on any of the theme of the novel in any of the movies. And the end of the novel is so chilling. I really hope that they would use it when they did the remake with Bruce Willis, and they didn't. So it's like an unforgettable scene and a perfect ending, and they never used it because it's Hollywood and they're idiots.
Now, Chuck, I know that you've interacted with Mel Gibson's production company.
Yeah.
Do you see Mel, and do you have any Mel stories or conversations?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay.
I did some work I did a graphic novel for Icon.
Oh, okay.
For the first book of Samuel. He was going to do a trilogy about David. Taking him from shepherd to king over 3 movies, but we all know what happened shortly after that.
Yes, we do. Somebody said Jim Caviezel as maybe 10 years ago as Bruce Wayne.
Well, he would have made a great Batman. I don't know about the Bruce Wayne, but his Person of Interest show, he just killed it. I mean, I thought he was.
He's intense. That guy's intense.
Yeah.
Well, Chuck, how do you write Bruce Wayne and then you write Batman? I mean, like I said, two sides of the coin type of thing. How do you write Bruce Wayne that everyone around him doesn't realize he's Batman? That those who kind of know him?
Well, to me, I didn't want to write him like Don Diego, with Zorro, because Don Diego was a fop, and it was, so Bruce Wayne was still a man's man. He played golf. He did, he chased women and, drove sports cars and stuff. But the most fun scenes to write for Bruce were scenes where he had to not rise to the challenge when someone was humiliating him. Because Graham and I did this obnoxious neighbor that he had, who was a fellow multi-millionaire, multi-billionaire, who every chance he got would mock Bruce or try to humiliate him. And Bruce would never rise to the challenge. The other fun scenes to do were when Bruce was at board meetings at Wayne Tech or Wayne Enterprises, and he would see them doing something wrong, but as Bruce Wayne couldn't correct them. So he would say things like, I was reading in the Wall Street Journal about, and he would sort of obliquely suggest the direction they should take. And then they would all adopt it as if it was their idea. So those scenes were so much fun to write. And Graham, the way he would pull off body language and stuff to really sell it, because Graham's a master at those really quiet moments that a lot of guys just make boring, and Graham makes involving because the characters are moving in a believable and relatable fashion.
Oh, it's like that nuances that I talked about with the Airboy cover. It's all about nuances to sell the character. You can't have ham-fisted acting. You have to have the characters with their own little idiosyncrasies and think about how they move and how they behave, to bring them to life. But the one story I love that you did, Chuck, that we did together was Tech 711. Yeah. And that was the one where Bruce Wayne has a night out and he has to foil all these different crimes as Bruce Wayne without anybody knowing he's doing it. So like he pulls up to a 7-Eleven and the place is getting robbed, and I think he squirts some mustard from his hot dog into a guy's eye. Oops, my mistake, that type of thing, and then trips the guy up, and then he's at a party and he recognized some grifters there, and he follows one into the bathroom, and while the guy's on the crapper, he grabs his ankles and drags him out and knocks him out. And, so he does all this stuff as Bruce Wayne, and nobody knows that Batman is there, kicking butt. That was a really cool story.
Yeah, even his date doesn't realize what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant how you write it, because I was getting to the point that of my favorite, which I believe This is my favorite single comic issue of all time. I think it's one of the greatest comic books ever written. And this is just the difference between Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne. And if I may...
My screen's frozen.
Can you see it? It's the Birds of Prey.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And I believe this is one of the most beautiful comic book stories of all time. Now, if you guys out there have ever read this, it's a story of and Chuck, if you may expound on this a little bit and tell us, how did this come about?
Well, my editors basically ordered me to write 2 talky issues. They wanted issues where they were talking all the time to explore their characters. And Birds of Prey 8 and Nightwing 25 are those issues, editorially driven issues. But of course, I refused to write stories without action in them. And I refused to do a Talking Heads issue. So we sort of compromised. And Birds of Prey 8, Dick Grayson comes to visit Barbara Gordon, who's wheelchair bound, on her birthday. And as a gift, he takes her to the Haley Brothers Circus, which Dick Grayson is a part owner of.
Right.
And he actually gets her up on the high wire, even though she's, paraplegic, and returns to her those days where she would, swing through the city on a rope and all the rest of it. And it's really the beginning of the romance between them that I developed over, several back titles for several years. But it's like the most underprinted comic of the era because they never went back for a second printing, sold out first day, and the values just shot up through the roof because it's a really hard comic to find. I recently did an hour-long podcast with a fan going page by page, explaining it.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's an issue that could bring tears to your eyes, actually. And you just see Barbara Gordon going through all this range of emotion and how she's flying again. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's beautiful as someone whose life she believed, the life that she had is ruined, and she regales and she's angry, of what she sacrificed.
Yeah.
For people she doesn't know, that never met or never will meet, and how he takes her out and she flies again. It's beautiful, and it's something I've had, and I got Greg to sign it, but I need you to sign this for me because I signed for a long
reach through the screen.
Come on down to Florida.
Come down.
I'll electronically sign it. Send me a scan.
So Chuck,
you can thank Scott Peterson and Darren Vincenzo and Jordan Thorpe because they made me write that issue.
Well, the world is good. I mean, for those out, you've got to read it. It's just brilliant, and I seriously think it's got to be probably my favorite single issue comic of all time.
Well, thank you, Billy.
And well done.
So
well
Chuck,
done.
how did Birds of Prey come to be? This is a 2-part question. How did Birds of Prey come to be, and what are your thoughts on some of the adaptation they did for TV and the future movie?
Well, it was really Jordan Gorfinkel's baby. He came up with this idea of teaming Black Canary and Oracle, and he was convinced they would have chemistry. And I didn't see it. And Black Canary's book had just been canceled. And I thought, well, they're never going to relaunch another Black Canary title. The last one went down in flames. But he kept at it, and he kept bugging editorial, and he kept bugging me. And then finally, thank God he stuck with me, didn't go to another writer, because, a dozen other writers would have just jumped at it because it was a job, And but I don't like to work on anything that I don't see potential in, or that I don't see I can contribute something. So he finally convinced me to write it. And by page 6, I was like, damn, he was right. There is a chemistry here. I see what he's talking about because their personalities both meshed and conflicted enough to make it really interesting. And then it was his idea that they not meet, and they don't meet for a long time. They don't meet for years in the comics. Black Canary has no idea who she's working with. It's a team up where one of the members doesn't know who they're teamed up with for years. Yeah. And that was his idea, and brilliant. Absolutely. So I give everything to Jordan. As far as the adaptations go, the TV show was miserable, and the movie looks worse.
I don't even know why they did Suicide Squad film. I think Margot Robbie is in my own opinion. I'd love to hear you guys. I think she's a movie star, and I think they could have just made Harley Quinn film. Yeah. And I thought that what's his face was, I don't even remember his name. What's his name? Horrible as Joker. Horrible.
Jared Leto.
Oh, yeah.
He's like my size. He's got to be 5'7", 5'8", and just an idiot. And it's just and she just how the presence that Margot has brought to Harley Quinn. We had Jimmy on Wednesday night, and I think she's really bought into that character. He said how she's just a big fan, and she carried that film, as much as she could.
Yeah.
So there's a piece of garbage, but between you and I, and all these other people out there. And now,
His next role is Morbius. He's gonna be playing Morbius, Jared Leto.
Who?
Jared Leto.
Ah,
God, I love that. I love.
you must have a good agent.
What's that?
You must have a good agent.
He must.
Yeah, really. I think he does. Well, maybe they put him all in, cover him up with makeup and everything like that. Maybe he could pull that off. I don't know. He was great in the film he won the Oscar for. He really was terrific in that. But I don't know. I love Werewolf by Night. It's one of my favorite Marvel titles. Fantastic. So, Nile, you want to scroll to some questions? We have a bunch of questions, and Chuck, we won't keep you that much longer, and Bo and Graham, Nolan, thank you guys for being honest. Chuck, I have one. Knowing that you've done a couple of Kickstarters, and I know that you're having the other people do it, but you're so engaged in it. What kind of advice would you give to those that are considering doing a crowdfunding, for their books? Like for instance, like what did you do wrong? Like what?
Don't do prints.
Okay.
Unless your book is super sized, like Graham's last book was,
right.
And you can ship the prints with the book. And avoid T-shirts for the most part, and just keep the stuff simple. And find somebody to help you run it. So find somebody who really knows what they're doing. Because when I did Trump Space Force with Tim Lim, he knew all about the tchotchkes. He knew how to get us the highest quality tchotchkes at the lowest prices, so that we could, use money from the crowdfunder to add content. Again, add content, rather than, spend it all on postage, So he, find somebody who knows what they're doing. Graham and I learned from bitter experience that this is not a job for amateurs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Now Trump Space Force. Let's see where that one is. That was in Indiegogo. And Tim, let's see. You guys did. There we go.
Like 70-something thousand, right?
Oh
Yeah.
my,
If my memory serves me correct.
look at that cover. Well,
I want that book too.
$72,000.
Yeah, that was a good payday.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good
Holy
payday.
cow!
Yeah.
And you've got.
And we have friends like Sebastian Gorka. So.
I see the Gorka shirt.
Yeah.
Oh,
Seriously.
yeah.
Jack Pasovic. We made a lot of good friends with that book.
Wow. Yeah, Terry's he's a Green Beret, right? Gulf War.
Yeah,
vet,
yeah,
and-
yeah. We met all of. Yeah, I was just talking to Jack the other day. He was telling me stories when he was a guard at Gitmo. So.
Oh, wow. There's the very, very rare Space Trump action figure.
Yeah.
It was $1,000. You should have made that like, I don't know, probably $5,000. You would have made more.
Yeah, there was only one. It went instantly. There was the statue. I'm looking here. I got the statue here. Mr. Trump in his space outfit while he wooding it up. So
That's awesome.
While he wouldn't it up.
there you go. So that's a phrase we use a lot around my house.
While he was up.
Now, is that book? Is the only way you could get that book through that campaign, or is there?
It's going retail.
It is going retail. Okay.
Yeah. Guys were up in Washington recently promoting the hell out of it, so it's going retail. They got pictures of them with Gorka, and they got to meet Trump and all that stuff.
Yep.
So, yeah. So it's going. You'll be able to buy it soon.
Well,
So-
Bo and Graham and Chuck, if I may ask you guys, this kind of advice: what did you do right? What do you guys encourage people to do? Is it either don't do hardcovers? Is it, or maybe it's more don't do this type of thing? But what is there something that everyone who wants to crowdfund a comic should do? What level aside from just the book? Is there any particular thing that really could help you push your stretch goals or anything like that? Like, what is there one thing like, yeah, that went? Chuck, you did $1,000 statue.
Yeah.
Like what is there one thing, or like, is it keep the levels down? Like I said, don't do prints. What is there something that you guys could also give out, because we do get a lot of questions, a lot of people that do want to crowdfund their own books that are asking advice from the pros.
Well, there's no single answer to that because it really all depends. I mean, sometimes I think you should have multiple pledge levels at various price points so that people can get in and get the stuff that they want. Or then you have levels for the high end collector who, let's say, might like variant covers, that kind of stuff. And then you might have the art collector who might want a sketch from the artist, a commission sketch that goes along with the books and all that kind of stuff. So you have various price points, which I think is important to increase the amount of pledges that you can get, because not everybody can get in at $500 or whatever. I think you got to have it varied.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Graham will agree with this. You got to finish it. You got to actually deliver it.
Yeah.
There's no gatekeepers in crowdfunding, but your boss is those people who contributed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You deliver to them. You got to treat it like a regular job and make sure.
Be honest with yourself, as far as because you have to, when you put the stuff up, you have to have a fulfillment date put on there, and be honest with yourself. Can I make that date? I mean, barring any kind of hurricane blowing over the printer house. You got to be honest and set that and make that a deadline, make that a goal, and try and keep it as close as possible.
You got to build a level of trust. I mean, especially if you're going to keep doing these. So look at Brian Polito. I mean, the guy delivers over and over and over again to his readers, and they support him for that. He in exchange, he has their undying loyalty.
Yeah. He's got such a machine now.
He does. He's a model.
Amazing.
He's a model.
And he's also fulfilling books for other people now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like and you think about it, and we were talking to Jimmy the other night, and Jimmy's house, and I was over his house when he was fulfilling a Kickstarter, and it literally unless you have an office or a studio, you have thousands and thousands of boxes. Comic boxes, your comics, your tape, your things, you're printing things to make the printing labels, overcoming your home. Yeah. So, I mean, it is good. And there are guys out there like Alterna Comics, Brian Polito, if you want to get in touch with him. I don't know. I'm not throwing it out there for people to get in touch with Brian. But how do you feel about these fulfillment houses? And is it worth giving them that percentage of your sales to do it? Because, I mean, think about it. That you can have a little wipe your hands clean of it and give it to them and have it on because you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I've always been of the mind that do what you do best. Right. If you're good at writing and drawing comics, then that's the moneymaker. That's the thing you should be doing. The fulfillment stuff is pennies on the dollar, and I think it's much better to have people doing that so you can be doing what you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and we are now $44 away from $14,000.
Woo!
I believe I believe it's Trump Space Force that Black Wolf Senpai is in the book. So we have one of your Trump Space Force fans out here.
Awesome.
And Black Wolf is great. He's always on. He's always contributing to the chats. He's always contributing to our campaigns, and he's one of the good guys.
Thank you.
Now, Chuck, I'm looking out there, and I see behind you, you have an incredible array of action figures, and some of them that look like are they Civil War era action figures up there? Maybe they're Dragon toys or something. What's that back there?
There's a lot
G.I.
of
Joes?
I got gladiators. I got a Steve McQueen Wanted Dead or Alive. I got a Doctor Strange from Hot Toys. I got a Brad Pitt from Inglourious Basterds. I got a Sly Stallone, of course, from Expendables.
Nice.
So just a bunch of shit. Just toy soldiers and I got my shelf of Bane. Those are all Bane action figures right there.
Any firearms in the studio?
They are in the vault. They are in the vault.
Any toy firearms?
No, not even any toy firearms. That's all that stuff's locked away.
Bo Smith, it's a good thing you don't have anything with an Greek, right?
What?
Bo's silent from that. Bo's in West Virginia.
My life's an open book.
There it is. No.
So Chad would like to know if you ever plan on. I'm sorry, C. Merwin would like to know if you think you'll be ever working any Batman titles again.
Is that for either me or Graham?
That is.
Or
I believe
Bo.
that's
Bo's
direct.
working on
I get.
Batman.
They don't specify. So we'll
Okay.
start with Chuck.
No. I don't think that's ever going to happen again, unless there's a change in management or Warner's breaks up the company and licenses Batman to someone who likes me.
That's
I'm with Chuck on that. I don't think it's going to happen unless the Titanic captain gets
Thrown overboard.
iceberg ahead. All right. All right, Chuck. Here we go. And I asked Graham this, and Graham had a great answer. I don't know if I asked you, Bo, this question, but if I may, Bo, you may ask if you were answering this after Chuck. Chuck, it's the weekends coming up, right? It's not Easter weekend, so you can do stuff with the family. Say next weekend. You cannot do anything comics related, and quite frankly, you don't have to do anything comics related. So you have the weekend off. What does Chuck Dixon do? You're off, Chuck. You're off.
Well, try to catch up on the exercise with the weight machines in the garage, and watch a couple of movies. Spend some time, with my wife. The boys are usually around on the weekend.
Can you hear me?
Just
we
hang
can hear
out.
you still, Graham.
Yeah. So just
Videos
hang
are-
out. That's it.
Bo, what about you?
Pretty easy because I don't do a whole hell of a lot on the weekend. I really try not to work on the weekends. I try to make it like a regular job. Beth and I go out and spend money we don't have. I watch. Right now is the perfect time of year, a really good time of year. I got hockey. I got baseball on. I got it on late at night, so I can do that. I read a lot. The dog and I get outside quite a bit. I've always got plenty of stuff to do. I've got enough junk upstairs and in another room of the house
Al, I'm
where
gonna.
I can go through this
Shall I
stuff
call
all
back?
the time. So
and see if I
Yes.
can?
I always got plenty to do. And
Yeah, call back.
It's
Yeah, Graham's connection
I
is
think
getting
I'm
lost.
using
and
Graham,
Soon.
we'll call Graham back in. All right, gentlemen, the two of you. I want to ask you this question. I am.
I don't like the way Graham's looking at me right now.
Yeah.
it's very judgmental.
It really is. I feel like less of a man now.
Look at my manly nephew right here. Come here, buddy. He's all boy. Come here.
Well,
My
Billy,
yeah.
Where'd
Billy?
he go?
something you may not know. I mentioned earlier, Chuck and I have co-written together. We did Batman Wildcat, but we also did the Black Terror for Eclipse back in 1989. And Chuck's probably too modest, but I got to say, without a doubt, it's the best Black Terror that's ever been done. Golden Age to present. And
did Dan draw that? Dan Baraton draw that?
Dan Brereton painted it. And it's still, you can read that today. It still holds up today. What the heck? I'm 64. I got no problems with ego. I think it's in the same class with that people look at with The Watchmen, with Dark Knight. I do. I believe it's story-wise, character-wise, it's up there with that stuff.
Now, if I may, gentlemen, who owns that now today?
Dynamite. Doesn't Dynamite? Or no?
The character's public domain.
Yeah, the character's public domain. Dynamite has been
their version of it.
Yeah.
Just like Chuck and I own our version of that one, even though Todd McFarlane owns the publishing rights to that.
He does.
Yeah. It's copyright to Bo and myself.
But could you imagine talking to Todd and doing a crowd-funded book of that? Think about reprinting that. My God.
I love the Black Terror.
Todd's always been, stuff that he owns, and you can tell that, and especially after the lawsuits that he had with Neil Gaiman and all that. He sticks with his stuff. So will it happen through Todd? I would say doubtful, but he would, I don't think he would be against, hey, take it, elsewhere, do this. Yeah. And he would get his percentage or whatever from that. Yeah.
Right.
I can see that happening.
I can see that.
Todd's a businessman, and he's a very good one.
Yeah. And he doesn't have to do anything.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, Bo, I know you're deep in. I mean, the Winona Earp book is Bad Day at Black Rock. You guys are in the middle of that, finishing that up. But man, what a fun Christmas gift that would be if you guys could launch that, as an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter come October or something. It's all done. Maybe.
I don't mean to be speaking for Chuck, but I think we'd have a lot of fun on that.
Yeah, we would. We would. That was fun to work on. It was a lot of back and forth, writing each other into corners.
Yes.
And I remember getting a lot of crap from Eclipse because they thought the plot line was ludicrous, an atomic attack on Wall Street.
Well, it's funny. It's almost like when I hear you two guys talk, which I've never heard before from other writers. Dueling right. It's like you guys are almost like dueling piano writers.
Yeah. Well, every time I've co-written, I've done it the same way. I did it with Larry Hama on The Punisher, Carl Kiesel on Superboy Robin, with Scott Beatty on our Year One books. It's always, we know the general plot line. I'm going to write this scene, then you write that scene, then you write that scene. And then we both do it right through together. And that's the way we did Black Terror. So that mode of me co-writing, my version of co-writing, began with Bo. Because as I said, we're joined at the ego, Bo and I.
Yeah. Well, now speaking of that, is there ever that gauntlet is thrown, you deliver those pages, and then you laugh because your compadre on the other end is now pissed off? Like, wow, now I have to.
I don't think it's so much pissed off sometimes, but Chuck and I would, like Chuck said, we'd write each other into corners. That's why that storyline has so many double crosses in it, because that was Chuck and I double crossing each other without knowing until the pages came in. And as far as being pissed off, no, there were some things when Chuck would hand his scene in that I was very envious of. So it was on a competitive type of thing that I was going, damn, I wish I'd have written that. Oh, that kind of thing. But
but I can say I was the same way. I would get his scene and go, wow, he knocked that one out of the park. I mean, he had some turns of dialogue that, this is basically like a really urban story, and Bo had some turns of dialogue that felt like a guy from Philly wrote it, not a guy from Cerrito. He had the patois down of those kind of characters. And there was some that love scene you wrote. I mean, the dialogue is freaking amazing because all the dialogue in the love scene runs counter to what's actually happening in the panels. It's just brilliant.
That was, I appreciate that. It just brings back a lot of good memories. The whole thing with that book, because it was a special book, and I'd love to see it collected and reprinted at some point.
That's one thing you don't think of. Bo Smith writing a love scene is like watching John Wayne sing in a movie.
Well,
it was the meanest love scene ever written.
And it made a point in the thing that both the characters, the Black Terror's alter ego and Al Capone's daughter, called it all through it. They call each other by their last name. There's no first name.
That was brilliant.
It was sweet. So it was. Billy, you'll have to read it sometime. I think you'd get a kick out of it.
Oh, I'd love to. So, okay, if I may now, because there's something that I've been, I don't know, Bo, if we got into this, Graham and I did, and Jimmy and I did. Now, you were told, Chuck, about writing an issue of just dialogue. And one of my favorite writer-directors today, and I just think he's a genius personally, is Quentin Tarantino. And I love that he'll have a 5-minute scene of just dialogue. And Chuck, like I said, you pulled it off. You did of just two characters interacting, and then again you made it this amazing love story. And in one of my opinions, Birds of Prey #8 is one of the greatest single issues of comics ever written. How do you guys feel about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Have you seen the trailer and the possibilities?
It looks like fun. It's going to have to be really, really good, so I'll forgive him for Hateful Eight.
Yeah. I just love the idea. Now I'm spilling, after seeing Inglourious Basterds, which I loved, I just love the idea that you have now Damian Lewis is playing Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee's in it. And didn't McQueen live next door, or one of his friends live next door to the Tate residence, to Polanski and Sharon Tate's residence?
Yeah, they were adjoining properties, right?
Yeah. So now
Steve McQueen lived next door to Keith Moon, from the drummer from The Who.
Sure, yeah.
As well, he was on the other side.
So is this a story that this stuntman and McQueen and what's his name, and Bruce Lee and all this, could they end up stopping the Tate murders and destroying Charlie Manson? And you know what I mean? Could you just imagine if they walked in? You know, if they're hanging out drinking, let's go see Sharon. She's this beautiful, starlet. You know who she was, and they're having a party with these wimpy guys, and we're gonna go there. Let's hang out with all these chicks in it, and all of a sudden they come across, Manson's family walking in there. I think I'm projecting my fantasies, because I get so mad at him for doing these things. Like when he did Inglourious Basterds, I just get mad because he's just so brilliant.
Yeah, he's sort of like an idiot savant.
Yeah.
Because I remember when he made Kill Bill, he wanted to have who's the actor? The guy. The guy was in Then Came Bronson.
Michael Parks.
Yeah, Parks.
He died. Yeah.
He wanted a scene with him and his son. It wasn't. It was Death Proof Car. He wanted a scene with those two characters that were from Kill Bill, but he didn't know how to fit it in. And he thought, well, what if I do this scene where they recap what we just saw? And he said, and I saw him in an interview. He was very candid. He said, I hate those scenes in movies. I don't understand the point of scenes like that in movie. Why recap what the audience just saw? And when he wrote it, he realized why you do those scenes, because they add resonance to what you just saw. And it was really cool because this guy learned about storytelling by making a movie. I mean, you rarely see filmmakers or creative people talk about the learning experience of doing. And I appreciate that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I just love the possibilities of this film. And like I said, when I saw the title and then I just saw the trailer, my mind just went off in a tangent. And so
it looks like a hell of a lot of fun. It looks like the cast, they shouldn't even have paid them. They're having a blast.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like it's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's got, like I said, man, he's got a long way to go. It better be awesome, because Hateful Eight, my God. I love Westerns, but I could have done without the man rape.
Yeah. I love the first hour, and then again, it just, I don't know.
I mean, I'll watch any Western. I mean, I would have watched, I would have loved it without that element. I mean, that element made no freaking sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
okay, Chuck. So we're supposed to go on for 45 minutes to an hour. We've been on for like an hour and a half or more.
Oh, we could go till tomorrow, this crew.
Yeah, I know. We could talk forever. This is like us just hanging out in a bar or something.
Right.
Chuck, what's next after Airboy? What's next?
I'm working on a project called Hunter Ninja Bear for Phenom.
Wait, well, all right, you got to tell us about that. Hunter Ninja Bear.
I'll tell you a little bit because I don't want to reveal too much. It's a 12-issue mini. It's Mel Ruby on the pencils, Rob Hunter, Bobby C on the inks, and it's about a ninja clan who in the early 1800s are up against these vicious, horrible bears on their island. They're not the usual cuddly-looking Japanese bears. This is like a different species of bear, and they realize they can't handle them. So they go to California during the gold rush, and they recruit mountain men to come back with them and hunt bears on Honshu Island, deep in the woods below at the foot of Mount Fuji.
Oh,
wow.
It's the guys from Phenom, Tom Finoglio approached me with it, and I thought, man, this is so crazy. And he provided all the research and the spine of the story. It was just up to me to dramatize it. And I've been having so much fun. And in 12 issues, we get to tell basically like a 3-hour feature film. And it's just been awesome. And Mel's been great, and Rob's been great, and Ivan, our colorist, is a phenomenon. So it's been beautiful. So, and that's going to be out, I guess, sometime next year.
So it's like the birds, but with bears.
Yeah. It's like these big grizzly ass bears that never existed in Japan, but basically they become extinct in our series.
There you go. All right.
I got a question for you two, and I've thought about this since I've known you guys forever. Have you all ever thought about working together?
I would love Chuck. I would love to work with Chuck. Anything Chuck would do and have me on, I'm on. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like to work with Billy. He does some pretty pictures.
I think I'm easy, you know.
Oh yeah.
I like the cut of his jib. Again, I've been a fan of yours. Again, you made me friggin' cry with this comic. I think I was like friggin' Scotch.
Well, you do your homework too on the research. I know you'd have my back on the research.
Well,
if I asked for something,
you thought about like asking what's next, and you had that. Now, what about doing the Civil War diaries, Civil War stories book? I have mine over here. Hang on.
Every time I see Billy take off from his chair, I think of Danny DeVito playing the Penguin.
Yeah, I'm just glad he's wearing pants.
Yeah. That is a treat tonight. Not that loose robe.
I mean, this is. I had to grab it. It was next to Mao's. So, Civil War Adventure, right?
Well, what Gary and I found out, because we self-published that, we found out that Civil War aficionados hate comic books. So we really thought that they would gravitate toward it because it was their subject matter, and it was like a book they could buy for their kids or grandkids and introduce them to their subject matter. But boy, they outwardly hated it. And Gary and I offered free pages to the Civil War Illustrated. It's like a weekly newspaper for Civil War aficionados, and it's got a huge circulation. And we offered them free pages, and they simply turned us down because they said we couldn't possibly be accurate enough, and also it was horrible, awful, stinky comic books. So.
Oh my God!
But Dover picked it up. It's still in publication, and it does well through school book fairs and things like that. So we're reaching the kids, so Gary can teach them how legs were amputated because he insisted on doing it.
Yeah. I mean, research in this book is just phenomenal. I mean, it really is. I love it.
We researched it, and Gary really, Bo can attest, Gary became a Civil War nut.
Yes.
He could tell you everything. He could tell you what happened at 4:10 p.m. at Gettysburg on the third day. Yep.
He did not let go. He was dead on it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they're unforgiving because Gary, when he was talking to Civil War Illustrated people, they mentioned a painting, a famous painting of the Civil War, and Gary said, "Yeah, I know that. It's the troops after Pickett's charge, and they're trying to convince Lee to let them have one more charge."
Yeah.
And the person at Civil War Illustrated said, "Well, that battle flag the guy's holding in the background?" And Gary's like, "Yeah," and he goes, "That was actually captured the day before, so it couldn't have been there." So in their estimation, it was a lousy painting.
What now? Is that a Kunstler painting or is that an old historic?
It was a Kunstler painting.
Yeah, he
and
fucks
it's
up.
one of its most famous paintings, but to them it sucked because that flag shouldn't have been.
Well, I agree with that. And being done with Sergeant Rock and have done World War II reenacting and all that drives me up the wall. You know what I mean? So I heard things about Mort, that he's kind of really arrogant. I don't know him, so I should be saying, but I just heard things about him, and he and these guys know things, but he's got, he's an incredible talent.
Oh,
but he's got his vision, and he's a little bit, he is the Civil War guy.
Yeah. When you get that much per painting, I guess you have a right to be arrogant.
I've never really met anyone that, and being in the reenacting crowd, community, I've never met anyone that's met him that likes him.
I'd never heard that. Okay.
Well, speaking of ghosts, and this is a Nile Scala question, the brain, the man who's running all this, is Nile back. Hey!
Hey!
I had to get off my head. My computer is crap.
We were looking at you freeze frame, giving us like the total stink eye. For like
if you could see me or hear me or anything.
You're coming through marvelous.
Yes,
so, Graham,
nice and clear.
Speaking of the Civil War and Gettysburg and things like that, do you believe in ghosts?
You already asked me that question.
No, I'm sorry, Chuck.
Ghosts? No, but I know people who do that I trust their opinion. They do believe in them. I think it's one of those things until you run into it yourself. But I know people who are sane, in every other aspect of their life, swear to God they've seen ghosts and very detailed descriptions of what they've seen. So I keep an open mind.
All right. Have you ever seen a UFO?
No.
Really? Never?
And I know people who aren't sane who've talked to me about UFOs, so I don't believe them. And Graham knows one of them. So we were at that summits with a guy who was convinced he had been abducted. So.
Abducted? I just mean seeing one. Wow. Now, Graham, have you ever seen a UFO?
Lots of things I can't identify.
Well, I'll tell you a story. Bo, what about you?
No.
I mean, you've been in West Virginia, you've never seen a UFO or a Mothman or nothing like that.
Never.
Have you ever seen the Mothman, Bo?
Never saw it.
You did?
No.
I went to school with him, but I didn't see a lot of it.
His name is Ray Crabtree.
Yeah.
but he's a superhero, actually.
But no, I don't believe in ghosts. And
Very rich, successful real estate baron who at night becomes the Mothman.
yeah.
It flutters around street lamps.
Yeah.
I actually lead a pretty boring life. I've come to that realization here.
Yeah, Bo lives in a college town with co-eds all over the place. He leads a very boring life, I'm sure.
Billy, you've been here multiple times. Chuck's been here. Graham's been here.
Yeah.
All three of you have been here. Nile, you're next.
Yeah. Bo stays on his side of the flood wall.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
We've got to get Nile in there.
love
I've
co-eds.
seen UFOs, if I may. I was actually, I remember out in Long Island, I was at a drive-in movie theater. Watching actually the film was, what was that?
Bo's
The
chair.
ghost. It was the ghost of Bo's chair.
We were at a drive-in movie theater seeing Fright Night. If you remember the film Fright Night. Is that 85, right? Fright Night?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I saw something in the air, and it actually was a light, and it fluttered like a bird. But it was like up in the stars. Another time I was hunting outside of Roswell, New Mexico, in a town called Hope, and I saw things moving back and forth like that, like jagged, and I guess near Roswell where there's Area 51s near there. But I was flying over Europe. I just come over the Atlantic, and I woke up, and I had my coffee, and I had my breakfast, and I looked out my window, and I literally saw an orb that looked like Sputnik without the wires hanging from it, following my plane. It had to be 100 yards off, 200 yards off.
Did you see the shot on the wing?
On
the Atlantic. Surrounded by
North Atlantic.
What kind of drinks did they serve on the plane?
Yeah, well, it was a long
So how many times did they probe you?
Yeah, well, no probing, just seeing stuff. All right, Chuck Dixon. What was, and please don't tell a story about you seeing a dog get hit by a car or anything like that. What was the scariest thing to ever happen to you?
I was about 3 feet from an enormous black bear on a pitch black night at the foot of Mount Katahdin in Maine. And I thought me and my buddy Tony DePaul, who Graham Nolan knows, I thought we were going to be eaten alive by that damn thing. And, I've never been so shit scared in my life. And I've never, if it was possible to wish a gun into my hand, it would have happened that night. And we slipped away to the ranger cabin. We sort of, blinded it with a flashlight and slipped out the side of our lean-to. This was an open 3-sided lean-to we were in, so there was no way out except past the bear. Got past the bear, went to the ranger cabin, and the ranger said, yeah, that bear is people-oriented. It was like people-oriented. It was roaring at us, and it was huge. And we saw its crap the next day, and, you could have built a house out of it. And so they let us sleep in the bunkhouse with the rest of the rangers for the rest of the night. And that was, man, the next time I went to Katahdin, I had a 44 Magnum. So
the bear was literally, he was just looking for food.
Yeah. And, you put you hang the food from the tree like they tell you, but, you still smell like food after you put it on a campfire. So you still, and, even if it smells toothpaste. But I've camped around bears before and they'd never been a problem. But, man, this bear wanted in. I remember Tony said, maybe we just play dead. I said, we play dead and this thing sits on us. We're going to crush to death.
Yeah.
Even if he just sort of sorts through us looking for stuff, he's going to, split our heads open. So we got to get the hell out of here. But man, I was shaking. I never thought it was possible to be that scared and not piss myself.
I've never seen a bear, and
They are not nice animals. They are primitive. They always say, "Oh, don't run away, don't do this, play dead." There's nothing you can do. You don't know what that bear is going to do. You're at its mercy.
I got invited to go bear hunting up in Maine,
Yeah.
bow hunting, and I'd love to do it, but I don't know. Well, I don't know if you can eat it. I heard they don't taste so
It doesn't
great.
taste good.
Yeah,
The only part of the
I've
bear
tried
that
it.
tastes good, and I know this from my own experience, believe it or not, is the pads of the feet.
really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I
The
grind
rest
it
of
up
the bear, no.
dog. We feed our dog Una, venison, and then salmon. We feed her salmon, and it's all natural what we give her. So, but my wife's like, no, it's like a dog. It's a closer relative to a dog. But I'd kill
It
I
is.
for the
A
day.
big dog.
Graham,
A big, mean, stupid dog.
Yeah.
no, she's not mean. She's
Hey,
not.
Graham,
stupid.
I think you're muted.
She's wonderful. Graham, are you muted?
No,
Oh,
can you
no.
hear me?
I
Oh,
can
you were
hear.
talking before, and there was no sound coming out.
Well,
he was just-
we're coming on 2 hours, so I want to keep you guys. I could talk to you guys all night. This is great. I feel like we should do this on our own privately. Do we have any questions, Graham? I see a whole bunch of things. Somebody said something about veggie bears, but Graham,
Veggie bears, right? That's what it said.
Graham, what's the scariest thing that ever happened to you, Graham?
I don't scare.
Wow, kill the whole thread. Thanks a lot.
I can attest to that. I always call him never back down Nolan. So
Well, what do you say? We
Just
have
check out episode 6.
we have Clayton Merwin out here, and Clayton is an artist in his own right. He's a patriot. He's a great American. And Clayton said, "I got shanked with a homemade knife by an inmate when he was working in a prison."
Ooh.
So I think you beat us with the scariest thing ever happened. Holy shit!
near death. Jeez.
Yeah. Nick W said, "Never play dead. They will take a bite out of you."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably just out of curiosity, if nothing else.
Pop-Tart Gun says vegans should exercise their animal rights by interacting with foraging mama bears and her cubs.
It's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Lee Ditworth said he just wanted your picnic basket. All right, guys, listen. We got a bunch of you guys out there. If you guys can give Chuck Dixon a like, and Graham Nolan and Bo Smith, our illustrious hosts, our wonderful friends.
I've got enough friends, Billy. I don't need one.
Hey, Billy, when I
I can't mute him.
did you guys put up my new Indiegogo campaign?
Oh, that's right.
Yes, it's up.
Yeah, we were planning on that. Graham, if you may give, Graham had a hugely successful Indiegogo campaign, and Kickstarter campaign, and now that Return to Monster Island's on Indiegogo, so can we post that up? I see Airboy.
Now I just use it for the stink eye for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We've got the link is in the description and in the chat for your Indiegogo.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Cancel.
So, for the fans that, didn't go to the Kickstarter or they missed out, maybe they're on vacation or something, you can still get some of the reward, and certainly you can get all the books on the Indiegogo campaign now.
Here, we'll play the video for him. For anyone that hasn't seen this yet, let's play this wonderful video.
It's the same video with a few minor adjustments. Don't throw darts at the screen.
Hi, comics and monster fans. I'm Graham Nolan.
Look at that handsome
my
doe.
work from
Indeed.
years of working
Long
in Marvel,
sleeves.
DC Comics.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Co-creator of the Batman villain Bane. I've recently partnered with my friends at Ominous Press to bring you the 20th anniversary
there it is.
edition
Okay.
of Monster Island. And thanks to all of the
Yeah, that's a
backers
beautiful
that
book.
supported the
That is a
project,
beautiful book.
It
was
really
a great
is.
success, and we can finally
Look
bring
at the size of
the
it.
long-awaited sequel,
Yeah.
Return to
That is a
Monster
beast.
Island. It's been 20 years in the making.
Graham, your head seems to be getting smaller and smaller every year.
Return to Monster Island.
The artist that draws him.
That's
sequel to the
because my
original
brain
story,
keeps
Monster
shrinking.
Island. It's been
It's
20
it's the
years
gamma
ago.
rays.
I've always wanted to do the sequel and the subsequent sequels. This was originally an idea
Man.
that had
Beautiful book.
It
Yeah.
is.
And this obviously is the first
And
one.
gorgeous
2 years
premise
have
too.
passed since
Really
the original
fantastic
adventure,
premise.
and our heroes
And if you like good comics, you need to support this
When
because
the
this is
Monster
good
Island
comics.
shows up,
This is
on
pure
major radar
comics. To me,
screens
pure
above the
comics is
Bering
when the
Sea,
same
it's a
guy's
race
writing and
against time
drawing.
to get there
Yeah.
before the Russians.
You know,
It's just
none
a
of this
fun
plot
adventure.
shit.
Taking over the island, and our heroes have to set
and-
things
and
right
monsters
before the
at the
island
same time.
disappears once
Yeah.
more.
All
New
American
characters,
boys.
new
Oh, yeah.
monsters, and
A
new
murder.
adventures await you
And
on Return
Chuck,
to
you're
Monster
now
Island.
19 grand
Some of the
shy
great
of
rewards
$14,000.
for this campaign
Awesome.
include Return to
George.
Monster Island and
19 shy.
a colorized version of the original
$19.
Monster
$19 high.
Commission art done by me.
How dare you, Graham Nolan? How dare you?
Lots of other great stuff.
I'm pledged 40 grand, 40 bucks.
Thank you for joining us for a
I
Return to
want
Monster
Graham's
Island.
cup.
I hope you'll
Wait,
consider
her
pledging your
40.
support to this campaign. I know with your help, it'll be a huge
It's
success.
10. Is Aunt Debbie home? She's not home. I know she's shopping for Easter. Hey, ask Matthew to get my wallet downstairs. Where's your cousin Matthew? Look at.
We're live.
Oh, we're live. All right, sorry.
Back to last
You're
year's
live
thing.
the whole time, buddy.
Man,
Hey, get my slippers. Give me slippers and make me a sandwich, kid.
All right. So I got an email here, an anonymous text from a very well-known comic creator, and it says, "Chuck and Graham, were you upset when Todd McFarlane ripped off Bane's look with Spawn?"
What?
Bane's Spawn's mask looked like Bane.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No.
I don't.
Now that person's an idiot.
I don't even know. Did Spawn even predate Bane? Or were they concurrent? I can't even remember the timeline there.
Well,
Oh,
I mean,
sorry.
Todd
That
created
was meant.
Spawn when he was like in
No,
high
I'm
school or
saying-
college working at a comic shop.
So
Yeah.
I'm getting Spawn
It's
saying
the mask.
sorry.
Yeah.
No, I think one of our colleagues is being a bit of a rascal because that
Oh.
section was meant for Matt Wagner with Grendel. Oh my God!
Oh.
See, we
Okay.
have cruel friends. I have no part of that. I am not condoning that whatsoever, and I will never tell any of you who that was. It's someone we all know who's a very well-known person is taking a little dig at Todd McFarlane. And so I guess we'll save that question for when we get Matt Wagner on the show.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how cruel our friends are. Sorry, that was meant for Matt Wagner.
Hey, Billy,
Yes, sir.
you got you were asking us questions and stuff, but do you have a wish list of people that you'd like to have on your show for the future? I mean, a real wish list.
And we had we've had a great week. We had Ben on, who was great. We had Mike Barron, who's on, and Mike's always really interesting.
Yeah.
We got some fun emails with that. People loved him. Some people were scared of him. We had Jimmy, and of course with Amanda, and then you four guys were fantastic. Now I'm curious. I'd love to get Matt Wagner on, just to have Matt to talk. We've got a lot of people lined up, but it should be fun. Should be a lot of fun.
Jim
Jim Starlin.
Ask Matt what he had for lunch. He'll talk for an hour.
Oh, Matt took me all around when I went to Dark Horse. He took me all around town, and I love the guy. I just a lot of fun with him. But yes, Jim Starlin would be fantastic with what he's doing.
He's got his Kickstarter going.
Yeah, how's his one doing?
Oh,
Or
he was funded in 12 hours.
Yeah.
He's Jim Starlin.
It's up to like $60,000, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something crazy right now. And he has like 27 days left, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if Graham Nolan didn't ask for $437,000, he wouldn't fund it the first day too.
Yeah.
John
Right.
Romita Jr. Chad said John Romita Jr. created Prowler when he was about 14 years old.
That's true.
Really? Huh. I did not know that.
didn't
Yeah, I
know
love
that
Johnny. We'd
Wow.
have Johnny on. Johnny would talk.
either.
Yeah, you should get him on. There's some stories.
Oh, God, yeah.
Jeez.
Anyway, so so we scratch from the record, Nile, when we go live about one of our rascal friends.
Yes.
Taking a swipe at Todd, who's a sweetheart. But guys, this has been wonderful. We have Nile. I'm sorry, Graham. There's a question for you. Saying not a question, but a comment saying, "Love the '70s style of art." So, Graham, I thought you were '90s style of art.
Well, yeah, if you're a critic, that's true.
Yeah.
So now I've gone to a '70s style, huh?
Yeah, now
So-
you're set.
What decade do you classify your art?
If I did it in 2019, I classify it as 2019 art. I mean, it's a style that's that just happens to be mine. It's influenced by various artists that came before me, like everybody else, and it's more concentrated on storytelling than it is on stylization.
Yeah. I
Chuck?
love your art, man.
Yeah, we owe to Chuck. If I may, someone is asking, can you ask Chuck Dixon about Devil Dog?
Yeah. Richard C. Meyer, famous as my boy Zach, Diversity in Comics, arch nemesis of Mark Waid, hired me to do Devil Dog, which is a spinoff from his Jawbreakers.
Okay.
And I did that a few months ago. It was a lot of fun. The artist on it is amazing. And then he recently hired me to write 2 different science fiction stories for an anthology he's doing. And by anthology, these are long stories. I did a 50-pager and a 10-pager, which is like an opening for a longer story we're going to do later. But he puts together some interesting projects, comes to me with some interesting ideas, and pays me the same day I hand it in. So
Yeah.
he's my hero.
Beat that.
And he is a hero. This is a guy that was in the Marines, left the Marines, and joined the Army.
Yeah.
So he's the real deal.
I remember a lot of that happened. We had a Comics Pro page, and which was just a bunch of comic pros on Facebook. And Graham, you remember that? And when that all happened at the convention, I think it was Baltimore Comic-Con, and Mark said something, and there was some people out there. Remember that we had maybe a couple of hundred members, and I didn't know who half of them were, but Mark said that out on that page, and someone leaked it. There was, and that got out there that he wanted to fight Richard or some crazy thing like that, and just nuts. Crazy.
I mean, I wouldn't want to confront Richard on his.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, I never met Richard. I might have met him once at a show, but I'm like, looking from his resume,
Yeah, I mean, nicest guy in the world, but he's got a dozen different ways to kill you. So, but he's just the sweetest guy in the world, nicest guy in the world. Just an agile mind. I mean, the guy's he's a lot of fun to talk to, a lot of fun to work with, and I wish him well with all this stuff. And he certainly helped the whole crowdfunding thing along, and he certainly helped create an outlet for some of us artists who have been blacklisted, red listed, or simply underemployed. He's part of this whole movement that we're a part of right now. So he's a godfather of it.
Well, there's a really and what I find wonderful is that and it really does go broad the spectrum, and I'd love for Nile for us to do maybe a comparison. And not pick any sides, because we're all positive here. What we do, we want to get to the point to crowdfund our books, to have all these creators from this vast spectrum. I mean, heck, we all have issues, but we're all on the spectrum.
Right.
To maybe compare the Indiegogos to the Kickstarters, and really see the monies that are going between which, because. Both have been fantastic to me, but it took us 28 days to raise with Zombie Sama $32,000 on Kickstarter, and it took us less than 14 to do that on Indiegogo, and that was the second half of the campaign, Chuck. So all the big levels were gone, drawing people into the comics, original art. A lot of that was gone. So a lot of the levels were lower levels, and the Indiegogo supporters really threw themselves behind it. And it was really encouraging, because we found out, when I found out doing mine, I did Kickstarter first because I had never done any of this before. And, Bo, we had this conversation. I'm too busy. I don't have time to get involved in all this crap. But it was really encouraging, and I'm so psyched for the next She book, for She Return of the Warrior. We're going to Indiegogo first, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea for a show. I'll keep my opinions to myself if that's what you want to do. But yeah, there's definitely a divide and a loyalty to each. And I won't get into too much, but there's, I don't even know how to say it right without getting into it. Indiegogo has its followers, Kickstarter has theirs, and unfortunately, your project will say a lot of words depending on who supports what.
Well, what's great about this? All of our guests have their own personal experiences. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like so you had, we had Dan Parent, who has had us, and Jimmy Palmiotti has and Brian Polito have had amazing Kickstarter experiences. Right. Then on the other hand, we had Ben, and we have Mitch Brightweiser, we have Ethan, who have had amazing Indiegogo experiences. Mm-hmm. So I'd love for us to really see that, and that's what's so cool about this show is, and it's also kind of, I may be a bit selfish because I want to learn all this because I'm so new to it myself. But I mean, look at Bo. You guys hit over $130,000 with Kickstarter, so it's kind of.
But before that, we did one of the trade paperbacks that Melanie Scrofano and Tim Rozon and I all signed, and we did that through Indiegogo. And it was almost instantaneously met the thing and went above it. So but in my case, we have an audience, a pre-done audience. So this audience, the Earpers, don't usually do comic shops. They're not there. Mm-hmm. They just go, if it's Indiegogo, then that's where I go. If it's Kickstarter, that's where we go. And they did it both times. So it's not a normal case in this aspect.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, this is an amazing time, and this is a golden age for creators. All you guys out there that are watching, you can do your own comics. Do them. You can do them.
We talked about this before, Billy, and I want to reiterate it now that I got the chance again. This is the golden age. This is a new frontier. This is a time to take advantage of crowdfunding your own stuff, because I honestly believe the bigger publishers are going to jump on this. I mean, they're not going to make it. It's not like digital comics. It's not going to take over anything, but they're going to make it a part. And where better, they have the resources to do the stretch goals and provide things that you can't always get. And they've got the built-in audience. And that's going to take away, some funding from people who are trying to. And now is the time to do this stuff, because it's only a matter of time. When there's money, there's other people smelling, around, and they're going to do it. And now's the time to really do your own.
Yeah, I'm not so sure the big companies entering in this will change it from a level playing field. Unless there's dirty work at the crossroads, behind the scenes at Indiegogo and Kickstarter. I think, these garage band comics are still going to do great, because we're like the comic book rebels.
Yeah.
I agree they're going to do good, but it is going to sap.
Oh, yeah, it might. But look, I mean, you're always going to have an audience for Winona Earp comics that Marvel and DC aren't going to be able to lay claim to, because your fans don't give a crap about Marvel and DC.
Right.
Yeah.
In my case, yeah.
The difference in crowdfunding as a creator versus a corporation, and I think this is the draw to a lot of people sponsoring crowdfunding, is the interpersonal relationship you have with the creative process. Is that fans get to know you, and you're getting signatures, you're getting stuff directly from the artist. Mm-hmm. Who are you getting it from DC? This conglomerate that's owned by Warner Brothers. I mean,
Filming House in Indiana.
Even if that still wouldn't be a part of it. It would still just be one big white bread corporate way to get money, and it would be the interpersonal aspect that makes crowdfunding successful. So that's why I think that they won't be getting into it, because it just won't be worth it to them.
I disagree on the level that the creators that they have working for them that are, let's say, are under contract, this, that, or the other, are going to, they are going to be able to get the signatures. They are going to be able to get stuff that only they produce and can fulfill. They will be able to fulfill stretch goals, whether it's materials, whether it's toys, items hard to pack. They're going to be able to do that. They're going to have the warehousing and the fulfillment to do that, where somebody else, creator owned, might not be able to do it. It's going to happen. It's
I don't know. I don't think they'll be able to come up with interesting enough work, interesting enough projects, to make people get that involved with it, because they seem to have forgotten how to make good comics. I wouldn't trust them to do a good crowdfunder.
They're going to be hitting their own audience anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that are buying their comics are getting it anyway. It's the people that are looking for the alternative to the comics that they produce. The people that are looking for something that maybe is not being produced anymore by them.
Well, I hope that's the case, but business-wise, when there's money to be made, people are going to find a way, and especially larger corporations, to be a part of that. And they're waiting for the minor, and I don't mean this in a derogatory term. They're waiting for the minor leagues to clear out, work out all the bugs, this, that, and the other. Okay, now that they've done the heavy lifting, we're going to take advantage of this, and this. I business-wise, I just can't see them not taking the opportunity to turn down being able to make that kind of money. And I don't think it's a plot of we're going to take it away. We're just growing. We're going to do this. This is a new part of it, just like with digital comics and other. It's going to become a part of it. And I just want to stress to people that want to do crowdfunding of their own comics, do it now. And if this never happens, then it never happens. But you're still urging them to do it now, to try it now, while you still have the chance. You don't want to, I got into that. I wish I would have done that in 2020, because 2022 was too late. This had happened. So
the same guy that said Michael Keaton was too short.
I think I said he had a weak chin. That was
Chuck, let me know what you think, because I think they're both right. I think that you guys are both right. But however, I feel that because we are going directly to the consumer, and this goes back 25 years, 26, 27 years, where remember the people in the comic shops, remember how big of previews, remember when they had previews, right? Diamond Previews or Capital City had their remember the catalogs they had, the fans bought them. You remember, it wasn't just for the retailers. The fans, the comic shop buyers actually did buy their own issues of previews. It was there on the stand, they could buy it, and they picked their books. And what's cool about this is that Eclipse was before Marvel back then. Kamiko was before DC back then. And I think this gives us a more level playing field for when Marvel decided to open their own distribution chain and buy their own distributor chain, which I guess technically is smart if they were prepared for it. But that created that whole distribution war, and that killed Friendly Franks, that killed Heroes World, that killed Capital City, and Diamond. On top, they were Muhammad Ali of the whole distribution wars. But what they did by winning that, they made their exclusive deals with DC, with Image, with Dark Horse, and then eventually Marvel came in. So now a company like mine, which was Crusade Comics, we were probably on page, in the Diamond catalog, maybe page 25, 26. After that whole distribution war, we're now on page 325, 26.
Right.
Because they put those bigger publishers ahead of them. And by the time they got to me, they had no money for it.
Right.
That's why I stopped publishing. I'm like, I see the writing on the wall. We're doing really well with She was selling 32,000 copies a month of our monthly book, and I ended it. And I think it added this demand, like, why did you stop She? And I think I didn't want it to fail and be like so many other smaller publishers that just kept trying to beat a dead horse, and their numbers went down and down and down. But now I think with the crowdfunding thing, with Indiegogo, with Kickstarter, we have the same distribution plan. We have the same advertising plan. Do you know what I mean? People click on Indiegogo, they click on Kickstarter, they see projects we love. We see, wow, oh my gosh, Chuck Dixon has a new project out and he's hit his goal in 24 hours. Jim Starlin has his own book out. They hit their goal in the first day. You know what I mean? I think the playing field is more level because now the fans, which I'm looking over here on this computer, are more engaged. The fans are really now in touch because aside from Stan Lee, no one's ever known any of the comic or the comic creators, right? No, have you? When you read Stan's words, you felt like you knew him, right?
Yeah.
You talk about George Perez. You talk about, Jack then, but, I never got to meet Jack Kirby. But I felt when I met Stan Lee, I knew who he was.
Yeah.
And now we're all now Stan Lees. And it's great because it's leveled the playing field. It's almost like all men were created. What does it says that what's the whole thing about Sam Colt made him equal?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
God,
What
God created man, Sam Colt made them all equal.
Yeah, God created man, Sam Colt made them all equal with the Peacemaker. I think that these crowdfunding books are now our Peacemaker. And it's all for all you guys out there, all you guys watching out there. I see 45 likes already. I can't see how many watching, but all you guys out there that want to do these books, you guys can do it. I mean,
that's what I mean by dirty work at the crossroads, though, because if you let Marvel and DC into the mix and they get behind the scenes with these crowdfunding companies and get premium placement and stuff like that, do the same thing they did in the Diamond catalog.
Yeah.
Because you see it happen on Amazon. The big publishers, the ebook thing is over unless you're a big publisher, because the publishers came in and sponsor ads. They got the money, they got the marketing muscle.
Yeah.
So as long as it's GarageBand, as long as it's, pick whatever you want, we're all equal, we're cool. But if the big boys decide to get into it, I would hope they wouldn't change the rules.
And if they don't, that's great. But I think everyone that wants to do it should do it. Do it now. Don't wait, because this could happen. I'm not saying it will, but you should always, business-wise, for yourself, just don't think it's always going to be love and jelly beans forever. And always be proactive and forward.
Bo, if you're going to do something, do it now.
Yes.
Don't wait.
Yeah.
If you're going to start a diet or a workout program, do it now.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
Yeah.
Life's too short. I mean, and Brian Polito said the same thing on our first episode, because what's to stop a publicly traded company from going to Kickstarter and saying, I'm going to give you $1 million to advertise our books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even if those books only raise $100,000 each, if they do 10 of them or 5 of them,
exactly,
or one of them that raises $20,000, these are all write-offs for their investors.
Right.
And they will do that, and they will try to steamroll this. So this, again, guys, the time is now. You all have your ideas. You all have your stories. You know what I mean? Team up, go for it. What the hell? You fail, so what? Be the man in the arena, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So
failure is how you learn lessons.
Exactly.
You created something you own, even if you lost money on it initially, because you never know what's going to happen.
Because because the next Robert Kirkman is watching right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I've always explained that since the Eclipse days. I always told creators and people we work with, it's great that you're working for Marvel. It's great you're working for DC. You got to stay. Own something. If you're planning on having a career, own something during that career, because at some point something could happen. And it's just, I remember I always had the discussion with the Kubert brothers. Own something. You've got a great career, but own something. At some point, you've got to own something of your own. It's just the big picture. Really is.
You want something that's going to become a game, a movie, a TV show, something that's going to put your kids and your grandkids through college. Something to leave behind, a legacy other than, hey, remember that guy? And you're not the sad guy in his 80s sitting at the convention and with nobody standing in front of you.
And using the Kuberts for an example, Andy and Adam are already iconic. I mean, they're approaching their dad's level of things like that. And I didn't mean to sort them out, but for those that are still working we're looking at 10 now. Well, it used to be 20-year cycles. We're looking at 10-year cycles of what all of a sudden after 10 years, you produce your comic on time, you draw it on time, you write it on time. But we want to try something new. We've worked with you. That's their excuse is you're not shiny anymore. We've worked with you. You've got to prepare for that point in that 10 or 20-year cycle where they're going to go, or a new regime comes in. I mean, slowly but surely, the next thing you know, none of the editors, none of the publishers are still there. They've moved on. They don't know you. All of a sudden, you don't have contacts. You've got to prepare for that now. Crowdfunding is a perfect way of of not having to deal with that. But always remember, anything can change at any time. And like Graham said, do it now.
Yeah, and it's heartbreaking, right, Bo? I mean, you throw your
just look at Jack Kirby. I mean, he created the Marvel Universe along with Stan, of course, and he was shoved out.
Yeah.
So anytime you think that you're the hottest ticket for any one of these major corporations, you are nothing more than birdseed. That when it drops and they're done with it, they're going to swipe away.
And I've got to say, we just can't say Marvel and DC. This will happen at any publisher
it'll happen
below that as well.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking in the context of they're the big two in this business. Yeah. What we're talking about.
Well, yeah, and Pop-Tart Gunn said Tucker versus the Big Three. And I remember seeing that film, and that really inspired me because I felt, well, why the hell can't I be Tucker? I can be that. And crowdfunding allows that. Now, I remember when John Tartaglione, my best friend's father, set me up a meeting with John Romita. And I walked into John's office in Marvel with my page, and it was the first issue of She. It was probably the first 20 pages or so of She, the Way of the Warrior #1. It's a 32-page book. And John's looking through my pages, and he's like, wow, these are really interesting. I really like this, what you're doing. And he said, what is this? And I said, well, this is my comic I'm going to put out next year. I'm going to self-publish this comic. And John said to me, he goes, then what the hell are you doing here for? And here's a company man that had been there for 30 years or so plus by this time, had a great life. He said, you're going to make your own comic? I said, yeah. He goes, you do this book. He goes, do your book. If it fails, here's my office number. You can call me directly. He said, because there'll always be a place for you here at Marvel, but you have this book and you're putting together your own comic. Do it. He said, because you could be Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this is John Romita told me to do that. And it was the best advice I ever got.
Yeah.
And the time is now that you guys can do this too out there. So, I mean, by George, do it. Follow these three men's example. And Nile, who's up in a little box somewhere. Nile's hidden somewhere. He's working hard.
I'm up in the little box here.
Our
Our original set isn't working, so I'm the little wee box in the corner.
So anyway, gentlemen, I think we've had a wonderful experience, a wonderful night. Chuck, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, certainly.
I will be pledging myself tonight.
You're
all right.
$4 away from $14,000.
$4 away.
So
Really
give us $4, Billy, and
He's good for it.
And I hope someday,
I know where he lives. So.
Yeah. Well, I hope someday you'll ask me to do a cover for you, but that's what
you're over 14,000. 14,036.
All right. Thank you, Billy. Thank you. No, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know Friday nights are tough. I think Ethan Van Sciver, he's got 110,000 subscribers, and Ethan goes on Friday nights, so I know he sucks all the air out of the room, and rightly so. I mean, he's got a really entertaining show.
Right.
But and I know Friday night because most people have real lives, not like us apparently. But well, Graham, how'd your dinner go tonight? Graham went out to dinner tonight. Did you have a good?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, had a good time.
What did you eat?
Well, I'm Catholic, so I ate fish.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I had Velveeta macaroni and cheese today and chips, and I thought my wife was making dinner, but I guess she's shopping for Easter unless she's with her boyfriend again.
Yeah, but he's a really nice guy. Don't knock him.
You got good-looking kids, so it's a good thing she runs around.
Apparently so. Yeah, I mean, Elman, he sure does a good job. I want to wish all you out there happy Passover, happy Easter.
Yes.
The holiest of holy weekends in my Advent. So thank you all. Graham, what are you drinking? Whiskey?
I'm done with it.
I think I'm going to end with a whiskey myself. Chuck, this has been wonderful. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love for you to come back on and we could talk about lead soldiers.
Anytime.
And I got to tell you, I went to Waterloo. I don't know if you guys have been there. To Waterloo.
No.
At the museum at Waterloo, they have the entire battle of lead soldiers.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's mind blowing.
Wow.
So
I'd probably pass out.
yeah, I think you would. Guys, thank you all. Nile the Brain Scala, my friend, thank you.
Yes, as always.
Thank you, Bob.
Bo, did you go out to dinner with the lovely Laura Beth tonight?
No, she cooked salmon and asparagus, and we ate here at the house.
So Bo's a fish eater too. Chuck retiring. Chuck moved down to the mansion down in Florida.
Yeah.
On the Gulf there.
On the Gulf side.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you all, everyone out there. We want to thank you guys for joining us, guys. Thanks a million. We got to do this maybe every couple of months, just the 4, 5 of us, and just maybe we should start doing movie reviews. Maybe like a film comes out.
Oh man. Yeah. There's a bunch of movies we could fight about, Graham, Bo, and I. So a bloodbath.
All I gotta say is Silverado.
Oh, or the Graham, all I gotta say is Rio Bravo.
Rio Bravo.
All right.
Next time.
Bo or Graham or Chuck, do you guys know when Marion Morrison's birthday is?
No.
It's in July. It's in July.
The Duke's birthday.
July 22nd.
I'm in San Diego that day.
You would know if anyone, Bo.
Well, we're gonna have to pick some great dates. John Ford's birthday or something like that, or
awesome.
And we're gonna do shows about that.
Cool.
And maybe even real significant comic book days in comic book history, and we're just gonna have a big gunfight.
All right.
Talk about all these books and what sucks and what's good and what we like and what we dislike. Anyway, gentlemen, from the bottom of my heart, and Nile, if I may, talk for both of us. You come in. This has been a true privilege. Chuck, like I said, I've heard you've been called the Great Silver Wookiee. You're a giant of a man.
I wonder by who.
But you're also one of the most generous people I've ever met. All you guys I hold in great regard, and I hope that you consider me the kid brother you never wanted.
So the guy in the little box that's watching you.
The boomer right there. Look, he's he's my favorite Martian. Look.
Yeah, seriously.
Good night, guys. Thanks a lot. I'm gonna go Annette doing a cello movie right now.
All right.
My nephew, say goodnight. You hungry, buddy? All right. Good night, guys.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Billy.
Guys, Airboy. We're in the end. Airboy, can we run the Airboy commercial? Run the Crowdfunding Comics thing, and let's go. Let's get Chuck over 15. Let's expand that book to 32 pages. 48 pages.
48 pages.
We're on our way. Let's get to 15,000 by tomorrow night.
Bam. Good night, guys. Good night, Bo. Good night, Graham. Good night, Chuck.
Adios, amigo.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning into Crowdfunding Comics. We look forward to hanging out with all of our crowdfunding fans every time we go live. And don't forget to click the link below and subscribe to our channel. And there's a little bell, you may want to hit that too. This way you get all the great notifications when we go live and when we upload some awesome content. You want to follow us? Sure, go right ahead at Twitter at CrowdFundComics with an X, Instagram Crowdfunding Comics, and Facebook at Crowdfunding Comics. Till next time, crowdfunding fans, we'll see you soon.